Chapter 611. Open the door? The people who were busy all raised their heads and looked at Li Zongjio as if they were looking at an idiot. You brat, did you come here to cause trouble or to destroy the world? How dare you ask people to open the door? Don't go too far. Don't you know what's behind this door? What did you say? Jiang Wuxi heard Li Zongjio's words and was instantly enraged. He glared at Li Zongjio and wished he could slap Li Zongjio's head away. Young master, are you all right? Wang Ding hesitated for a moment and asked again to make sure he didn't hear wrongly. If the door was opened, it would be extremely dangerous. If the poison gas spread out, wouldn't it spread to everyone present? Although he didn't know if the origin qi experts could withstand this situation. However, these unknown factors were still dangerous. Didn't you hear me? Open it. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Wang Ding was shocked. Li Zongjio didn't come here to ask for your opinion, but to order you. If you can't even understand this, then you don't need to continue. Wang Ding realized that his question was superfluous and hurriedly asked people to open the iron gate. What are you doing? Do you want to die? Jiang Wuxi was shocked. Wang Ding, are you crazy? You're trying to kill all of us here. Jiang Wuxi roared in a low voice. Wang Ding was unmoved. Although the Imperial Medical Workshop was a big shot, they couldn't order him now. In any case, he was still a battalion commander of the city guards. Previously, he was just giving him a little face. The Imperial Medical Workshop nurtured imperial doctors. They were all talents who would enter the palace. They must have rich experience and knowledge. They must know a lot of things, 10 times or even 100 times more than ordinary pharmacists. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to graduate from the Imperial Medical Workshop. After all, there were only a few who could enter the palace to take up a post. Jiang Wuxi was not an imperial physician who had entered the palace before. However, their experience and the like could not be underestimated. They were all extremely extraordinary people. Dr. Jiang, don't be impatient. Let's see what's going on first. Wang Ding said with a stern expression. The faint prestige that was emitted from his eyes was also reminding Jiang Wuxi that the person standing in front of him was an iron-blooded general who had killed his way in and out of the battlefield. He was not some dog skin plaster from other places. All right, I would like to see how capable you people are. If the situation here becomes serious, you will be punished by the great emperor. Jiang Wuxi said coldly. Li Zongjio walked in. The person sitting cross-legged was also looking at Li Zongjio at this moment. Under the dim light, one could see a pair of lifeless eyes that were on the verge of despair. The situation this time was too dangerous. When Li Zongjio walked in, the person sitting there did not move. He just stared at Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio walked towards him. The person seemed to want to say something, but after opening his mouth, he remembered that he could no longer speak. He could only stare at Li Zongjio in front of him. Stick out your tongue, Li Zongjio said as he squatted in front of the person. Although his mouth was mute, his ears were still good. The person did not understand why Li Zongjio wanted to come in. He also heard Wang Ding's introduction and knew that Li Zongjio was only a student of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. How capable could he be? However, he still wanted to give it a try and stuck out his tongue. The moment the tongue appeared, Li Zongjio waved his hand. The blade flashed, and then a stream of blood flew out and splattered on the ground. What are you doing? Jiang Wuxi and the others saw Li Zongjio's actions and immediately shouted. Could it be that Li Zongjio's purpose was to assassinate their people? The person was also in pain. A large part of his tongue was cut off. Just as he was about to retract his tongue, Li Zongjio grabbed him. Li Zongjio grabbed his chin. The tongue and teeth kept colliding. He wanted to retract his tongue, but Li Zongjio held him tightly. He could not move. Li Zongjio also grabbed a handful of mugwort and stuffed it directly on the tongue that was spurting blood. Immediately, the person's face turned purple. It was obvious that the process was very painful. Li Zongjio casually pushed the person away. The person fell to the ground and covered his mouth. He seemed to feel that something was crawling out of his mouth. Immediately, under the continuous pulling, he retched. At the same time, there was a stench. Blurg! Along with some stinky vomit falling to the ground, A milky white worm also landed on the ground with a plop. When they saw this thing, everyone was startled. What is this thing? They could not believe their eyes. Gao Liang, how are you? Jiang Wuxi hurriedly said. Gao Liang also touched his throat. I'm fine. Because a small part of his tongue was cut off, when he spoke, it sounded a little swollen. However, he was able to speak. When they heard Gao Liang's voice, everyone was shocked. You can speak. Jiang Wuxi and the others were shocked. They looked at Gao Liang, who was in front of them, and Li Zongjio, who was at the side. Li Zongjio patted the dust on his hands as if nothing had happened and then walked out. This is the aphasia worm. Their eggs will be released with the breath. If you accidentally breathe it in, you will be parasitized by these eggs. They will slowly grow in the place where your tongue is. Naturally, you will not be able to speak. In addition, they will constantly absorb your energy and blood. Li Zongjio said. Once the host dies, the aphasia bug will naturally die as well, Yi Zichen said. Your Excellency is... Jiang Wuxi and the others looked at Li Zongjio, dumbfounded. They could not believe their eyes. This difficult disease that had troubled them for many days was easily solved by Li Zongjio under such circumstances. It was really surprising and shocking. They were shocked by Li Zongjio's knowledge and rich experience. If that saber had gone a little deeper, he would have become a mute forever. Although the tongue was also where the arteries were, most people who committed suicide by biting their tongues did not die because the tongue was broken, but because the blood flowed into their throat, causing them to suffocate to death. The mugwort leaf can force them out. You'd better wear a mask because once these eggs enter your mouth, it will not be long before the disease breaks out. Li Zongjio walked out of the cage. The person called Gao Liang also walked out and looked at Li Zongjio in shock. At the same time, his eyes were full of gratitude. He was very excited to see Li Zongjio. If Li Zongjio did not appear, he probably would not have lived for more than a few days. Gao Liang, thank you for saving my life. Gao Liang knelt down and thanked Li Zongjio. Master, this old man was blind before. Please forgive me, young master. If you have time, please come to my Imperial Physician workshop. We will definitely treat you with great hospitality. Jiang Wuxi said with an apologetic smile. His face changed faster than flipping a book. Just a second ago, he was fiercely saying that he would teach Li Zongjio and Wang Ding a lesson, but in the next second, he directly invited them with great hospitality. Where did this happen first? Chapter 6:12. Wang Ding sent someone to bring a map over. The first example we found was in this area. However, we have already checked thoroughly and there are no other suspicious situations. Li Zongjio glanced at the map. Bring me there. Although we have checked that area, it is very likely that there are other hidden dangers. Do not set foot there. Jiang Wuxi said. For such a place, they would definitely not dare to act recklessly. There might even be new types of toxins. These were all places and environments that were extremely dangerous. However, Li Zongjio did not pay attention to these people. The two of them were not on the same level at all. There was nothing to talk about. Wang Ding and the rest did not say a word and directly led the way for Li Zongjio. Thinking about it carefully, with Li Zongjio's identity, his life must be more precious. Could it be that with Li Zongjio's abilities, he would still want to throw his life away? Therefore, even the young master himself was not afraid. Could it be that they had to hide behind him? The group left the so-called research room directly. They were all people who had nothing to do. Although they were not capable, their tempers were extremely stubborn. Until now, they had not achieved anything. Instead, they had thrown their lives away. Seeing Li Zongjio and the others walk away without looking back, Li Zongjio and the others walked away. Jiang Wuxi and the others were so angry that they stomped their feet. He is simply arrogant. I have already given him a way out. How dare he not give me face? Jiang Wuxi was flustered and exasperated. He had already said that Li Zongjio could come to his Imperial Medical Workshop in the future. This meant that Jiang Wuxi had already acknowledged Li Zongjio. However, who knew that Li Zongjio would be so rude? This unappreciative thing. I will definitely not let him step into the Imperial Medical Workshop in the future. That's right. How dare he not give face to Elder Jiang? Such a person can forget about staying in the medical circle of the Sacred Flame Royal City. Ignore him. Let's continue with our research, Jiang Wuxi said. At this moment, Gao Liang, who had already suppressed the injury on his tongue, was also a little surprised. It seemed that Li Zongjio wasn't being polite, but Jiang Wuxi was also a little overboard. However, Gao Liang's status was ordinary, so he couldn't say much. However, he still needed to do some research. Didn't Li Zongjio already give them the treatment method? They could just use the mugwort to solve the problem easily. Was there a need to research anything else? But Elder Jiang, don't we already know how to solve this problem? Gao Liang could not help but exclaim. This was simply too outrageous. He had already given the method to you, so what are you all still thinking about? Shut up. You've only been in the Imperial Physician Workshop for a few days, yet you dare to point fingers at me? Are you tired of living? That Li Zongjio's background is shady, and the method he gave us is also crooked. How do you know that this method is foolproof? What if someone dies under our hands? Who will bear the responsibility? If you think you can teach me how to do things, then I'll call you teacher in the future. Jiang Wuxi immediately began to rain curses on Gao Liang's face. Gao Liang could feel the saliva splashing on his face. Hurry up and apologize to Elder Jiang. An old man hurriedly said. Gao Liang himself was also speechless. He didn't know what they were talking about. It was simply inexplicable. Looking at the faces of these people in front of him, Gao Liang suddenly slapped his own head. Why didn't he see that these people's faces were actually so ugly? It really made people feel disgusted. He only knew how to flaunt his past glory. It was as if he had never cared about the people from the outside world. It made people angry just by looking at them. Now that they had already given the method to them, they actually pretended to be virtuous and even had such a doubtful attitude. You bunch of old things, I've had enough. You all can play here by yourselves, Gao Liang said extremely angrily. Then, he threw his Imperial Physician Workshop token on the table, turned around, and walked out. Seeing Gao Liang's agitated reaction, Jiang Wuxi and the others were also shocked. Did Gao Liang's brain take the wrong medicine? Ask him to scram. In the future, don't even think about hearing Gao Liang's name in the medical world of Sacred Flame Imperial City. Thus, the group of old fellows closed the door again and did some self-righteous research inside. Gao Liang also felt that he was really blind to have mixed with this group of old guys for so long. Wang Ding and the others came to an extremely remote and dilapidated courtyard. They could even see that the surrounding walls were in tatters. The tiles on the roof were also in tatters. Just by looking at it, one would feel an extremely strong sense of crisis. How could people live in such a dilapidated courtyard? The surrounding streets had already been cleaned up. There wasn't even a dog in sight. You all stay outside, Li Zongjio said. Wang Ding and the others didn't know what Li Zongjio wanted to do, but since Li Zongjio had given the order, they might as well wait here and see what was going on. The few of you, be on guard, Wang Ding said. Li Zongjio walked in. There was almost no door outside the house. Even the walls outside were full of holes. It was doubtful if they could be used to block the wind. The surrounding was indeed filled with the smell of insect corpses. Don't be fooled by the fact that these people who play with insects carry a lot of insects with them all day long. In fact, they kill even more insects every day. So wherever they go, there will definitely be a large number of insect corpses. The number of insect corpses will definitely be beyond your imagination. Hence, Li Zongjio asked those people to stay outside. If they walked in and saw such a horrible scene, they would probably be unable to sleep for several months. Your grandfather is here. What's there to hide? Li Zongjio said indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately felt a strong wave of energy surge out from the house. Boom! The bricks and tiles in the house flew directly towards Li Zongjio. The loud noise also alarmed Wang Ding and the others outside. They looked at each other and immediately ordered to rush in. However, they saw Li Zongjio's figure jump and chase after a figure. Li Zongjio chased after the black figure in front of him and quickly swept away. That person turned around abruptly as he ran. With a flick of his hand, a pile of crimson insects that were shining with red light was thrown towards Li Zongjio. Crackle! Explosive insects. Palace Master Yunqi, who had fought with these people before, did not hesitate to release the original energy in her palm. Lunar Ice Palm. Boom! Immediately, the palm energy burst out, and a faint blue light was released from his body. There seemed to be tens of thousands of insects in front of him that were easily beheaded. Phew! Palace Master Yunqi took a deep breath. Then, with a loud bang, he was sent flying from a high place. Boom! Her figure appeared on the mountain peak, only to find that there were already people waiting for her. Hee, Palace Master Yunqi, long time no see. You are still as elegant as ever, the old man in the lead said with a smile. However, there was a sinister feeling in his smile that made people feel extremely uncomfortable. Yunqi also looked at the 6 figures around her. The other party had come prepared. However, Yunqi was surprised that these people actually dared to fight within the imperial city. If they were to fight, they would definitely be hunted down by the Saint Flame Empire if their whereabouts were to be exposed. The Xingyan dynasty had known about these guys for a long time. The poison sect in the southern region was a poison sect that should be eliminated. That was why these people were so careful. Among the 6 people, except for 1 elder, the remaining 5 were all priests of the poison sect. Sacrificer. In the poison sect in the southern region, they were quite powerful. They lived with these insects from the moment they were born. Even they had no choice. In addition, they had great talents, which made them the most important members of the poison sect in the southern region. The most important training targets, the priests, were often the main fighting force. Then, there were the ordinary insect-rearing masters. These insect-rearing masters were basically doing odd jobs, rearing insects and so on. They could not do anything else. You guys sure have guts. You actually dare to make a move here. Aren't you afraid of the secret guards investigating? Palace Master Yunqi also said coldly. Top secret guards. If one were to compare them to the top secret guards, then they were like a group of high-level special envoys. The targets they investigated and even hunted down were the top experts in the underworld. Basically, there was no case that they could not solve or kill. They were also at a different level from ordinary people. This was because the top secret guards were the top 4 secret agents. They were the top experts in the Yuan King realm. Every one of them was extremely powerful and could not be compared to the people from the Special Envoys department. If one was targeted by the top secret guards, then it was basically over. The other party could mobilize the intelligence resources of the Xingyan dynasty at will. One would have nowhere to hide. However, under normal circumstances, these top secret guards would not attack easily. Most of the time, they were chasing after some extremely vicious people. So what if they are top secret guards? Do you think that only the Purple Shen Pavilion will look for partners? Chongyi, the elder of the poison sect in the southern region, said slowly. If you are willing to come with us, then I can consider letting go of your companions in the Spring Flower and Autumn Moon Tower. What do you think? Chongyi said slowly. Yunqi's strength was not weak. If he resisted forcefully and fought a tough battle, he might be able to take Yunqi down. But correspondingly, it was very likely that Yunqi would go to the extreme. If this body lost its vitality, it would be a waste. Therefore, not only did they have to capture Yunqi, but they also had to capture him alive. If he died, then it would be a great waste. Chongyi would not allow such a situation to happen. He had to take down Yunqi first. As for the other people in the Purple Shen Pavilion, there were naturally ways to take them down slowly. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? If you want to catch me, then come and try. A long sword glowing with a light blue light appeared in Yunqi's hand. As this sword appeared, it immediately overflowed with terrifying fluctuations. Buzz! The sword aura vibrated like a frosty wave of air, directly hitting these people. In an instant, the sacrificers made their moves as well. Flying locusts killing formation. Chapter 614. Countless locusts rushed toward Yunqi like a dark cloud. Yunqi channeled his primary energy, and the sword in his hand seemed to emit a dazzling green light. The sword swept out like a mountain breaking a wave. It completely extinguished the locust's killing formation. A terrifying aura spread out like a vast silver river. Rumble! Good timing! The two sacrificers at the side also yelled and charged toward Yun-Chi. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out. A black light seemed to emerge from the bodies of the two sacrificers. When the black gold light was hidden in their bodies, it immediately made the Yun-Chi in front of them feel a trace of threat. Bang! Bang! The sword in Yun-Chi's hand continuously slashed at the two of them. However, it was as if he had slashed at two extremely hard iron plates. Immediately, there was a dazzling flash of light. The powerful rebounding force also caused Yun-Chi to retreat. You chose to kill me tonight. You're really stupid, Yun-Chi said coldly. Because tonight was a night with a full moon, the moon god technique that the people of Zishuan court cultivated could also improve their own attributes under this kind of condition. Their combat strength would also be twice as strong as usual. Therefore, Yun-Chi's aura was quite sharp as well as his moves and styles. Palace Master Yun-Chi, if you didn't mention it, I would have almost forgotten. We specially made a plan to target you. Today, we can see the effect. In the future, we can even promote it on a large scale. After Chong-Yi finished speaking, the light in his hand flickered. The other two sacrificers also shouted in a low voice. The three of them opened their arms at the same time, as if forming an encirclement, and rushed toward the light. When Yun-Chi saw the actions of these three people, he knew that something bad was going to happen. He must not let these people succeed. Immediately, Yun-Chi's figure swayed, and he directly slashed at Chong-Yi. Chong-Yi was the leader of these people. If Chong-Yi died, then the morale of these people would definitely plummet. Unfortunately, before Yun-Chi could reach Chong-Yi, he was stopped by the remaining two sacrificers. These two people practiced the body venomous insect technique. It was not the goo control technique. The so-called body voodoo technique was to directly raise voodoo worms with special abilities in one's body. Using this method, one could also make one's body extremely powerful and possess many inconceivable abilities. Two body venomous insect experts blocked Yun-Chi's path. Their attacks were swift and ferocious. Coupled with the cooperation of the two, it was difficult for Yun-Chi to break through. Not good. Yun-Chi suddenly felt that his strength seemed to be rapidly declining. The originally bright night sky also became dim. Yun-Chi was shocked. When he raised his head to look, he realized that the moonlight in the sky was gradually disappearing. A large number of insects occupied the Moonwell Mountain. The appearance of these insects could not be seen clearly, but the sound of their wings flapping could be heard. As these insects overlapped with each other, no moonlight could shine through. Who said only Tengu can eat the moon? My southern border's poison sect can do the same. Ha! Chong-Yi laughed heartily. At this moment, the entire Moonwell Mountain was plunged into darkness. At this moment, it seemed as though nothing in this world could stop these worms. Oh no! As the moonlight disappeared, the power of the sword light in Yun-Chi's hand seemed to be getting weaker. Immediately, Yun-Chi was shocked in his heart. Because he was interrupted in this state of cultivation, the effect of the power increase in his body had faded. Under normal conditions, the power of the moon god technique could only be considered average. Therefore, Yun-Chi's eyes became solemn. Chong-Yi also joined the battle. The other two sacrificers were maintaining the huge swarm of worms in the sky, in order to prevent these worms from flying away. Therefore, someone had to be here to control them. A barb suddenly grew out from Chong-Yi's hand. With a bit of black light, it pierced towards Yun-Chi. As it whistled, Yun-Chi immediately felt the ferocious power. Boom! The sword in Yun-Chi's hand was hooked away by the opponent. The other two sacrificers released a ray of black mist at the same time. Bang! Yun-Chi raised his origin energy defense, but he was still sent flying. With a bang, he smashed into a big tree behind him. Cough, cough. Yun-Chi coughed violently. There was a trace of itchiness on his neck. Immediately, Yun-Chi understood that he had been hit. He pointed a finger at his neck. Moon Sorrow Palm. Yun Qi slapped the big tree behind him with his palm. Immediately, the big tree was filled with a ray of silver light. Then, a terrifying ray of light was emitted from the big tree. It seemed that this ray of light had risen to an extreme state. Finally, with a bang, it turned into many fragments of light. Then, it suddenly flew towards the person in front of it. Be careful! In an instant, the tree transformed into thousands of silver lights that danced in the air and flew directly toward the person in front of it. Boom! Within the silver lights, an extremely terrifying explosion immediately broke out. It blew Chong Yi and the other two sacrificers away. Fortunately, the two sacrificers stood in front of Chong Yi and protected him. The three of them fell to the ground with a bang. At this moment, the light also gradually dissipated. It was easily suppressed. That girl can't run far. Go after her, Chong Yi said coldly. They must not let that girl escape. It was not easy for them to find such a good opportunity to wait for that girl to leave the Spring Flower and Autumn Moon Pavilion. Just as they were about to continue searching, a figure landed in front of Chong Yi and the others with a whoosh. Elder, it's me. Dao Xian's figure landed on the ground. However, looking at the place that seemed to have just experienced an extremely fierce battle, he was extremely surprised. Why was there so much danger tonight? Why are you here? Why didn't you guard the camp? The previous encampment had already been discovered by the Tusk Battalion. They even brought an expert with them. If I didn't run fast enough, I would have died. Dao Xian said. An expert? Could it be? A ray of light flashed in the eyes of Chong Yi and the others. Could it be that the person who colluded with the Tusk Battalion was a top-secret guard? If this top-secret guard was really investigating them, then it would be troublesome. No, definitely not. That guy's strength is only average. I shook him off in an instant. Dao Xian said disdainfully. If that guy was really a top-secret guard, then this top-secret guard was too weak. Moreover, Dao Xian could proudly tell others that he had once shaken off a top-secret guard. Just this proudness alone would allow him to boast for at least 10 years. That's good. Chong Yi also heaved a sigh of relief. Logically speaking, they should not be targeted by these top-secret guards. After all, there were still people from the higher-ups who were taking care of things for him. For the time being, such a situation would not occur. Just as Chong Yi and the others relaxed and prepared to continue searching for Yun Qi. Suddenly, they felt the surrounding temperature rise. It was constantly rising. Boom! What's going on? Why is it so hot? Not only that, the air seemed to be emitting a burnt smell. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent explosion above his head. When they looked up, they saw a large number of flames appear. Originally, these flying birds were entrenched in the sky, trying to use their bodies to block the moonlight and directly cover the sky above the Moonwell Mountain. But now, large numbers of corpses fell from the sky. The corpses that fell were all covered in terrifying flames. Patter, patter. The entire flock of birds in the sky instantly turned into a sea of fire. The flames illuminated the few people's faces, making them red. Chapter 6:15. Boom! The entire sky was filled with a sea of fire. Quick, disperse the rest of the night crows. Chong Yi immediately shouted. The two sacrificers quickly used their goo control technique to disperse the night crow army in the sky. However, no matter how hard they tried, the night crow army in the sky seemed to have lost control. They only knew how to fly into the sea of fire and gradually lost their lives. It's really not easy to find you guys. A young voice rang out. The six of them were shocked and looked over at the same time. They saw a person appear on the mountain peak. They did not know when he got close, but he was slowly walking towards them. Who are you? Chong Yi immediately shouted angrily. Li Zongjio stopped in his tracks and pointed at the people in front of him. Why is it just the few of you? Li Zongjio could not help but frown. It must be said that these southern border poison sect members were extremely troublesome. Sometimes, even if there were only one or two of them, it was very likely that they had thousands of troops under their command. It was not the kind of number that one could resist. Naturally, it would cause people to have a headache. These few people dared to cause trouble in Monarch City. Who knew how many powerful insects they had in their hands? It's you! Dao Xian recognized Li Zongjio. Although it was in a hurry, Dao Xian still remembered Li Zongjio's appearance. Elder, it's him. Dao Xian said in surprise. Thinking about it, shouldn't he have easily shaken off Li Zongjio? Why was he still in front of him now? But no matter what, since Li Zongjio had followed them here, they definitely could not let Li Zongjio live. The Southern Region Poison sect had never left anyone alive. Since Li Zongjio saw them today, they would kill one more person. Looks like I can only kill you guys today. I thought there would be more of you. Li Zongjio shook his head. There seemed to be some regret in his tone. Under normal circumstances, Li Zongjio would not easily take the initiative to attack. The Yi clan was too arrogant and self-righteous. In the end, they became stubborn. Li Zongjio had no choice but to completely destroy the Yi clan. Apart from that, there were also the people from Qingyuan Manor and the Southern Region Poison sect. Li Zongjio basically killed everyone he saw. He was a man of his words and never let anyone go. Otherwise, Li Zongjio himself was a person who did not like violence. Peace was the most precious thing, right? You want to kill us? Brat, no matter who you are, you have said your last words. Chongyi said in a cold voice. The viciousness in his eyes was not concealed in the slightest. Regardless of Li Zongjio's identity, he was a member of the Southern Region's Poison sect. He had never been afraid of anyone. As soon as he finished speaking, the two body venomous worshippers beside him stepped forward. The body venomous technique that the two of them cultivated allowed their bodies to be close to the strength of a Yuan monarch elite. Previously, with Yun Qi's strength as a third-grade Yuan monarch, he was unable to suppress them directly. He would be restrained by them for a short period of time, which gave the other experts with the Gu control technique enough time to set up the bug formation. Furthermore, Yun Qi's state earlier was enhanced by the Moon God technique. Under normal circumstances, the time it would take to collapse would be even shorter. He didn't even need to fight. He could just run away. The two of them attacked Li Zongjio from both sides. Li Zongjio didn't make any preparations. When he saw that the two of them were close enough, he slowly took out the thunder beheading blade. A saber swept past. Boom! The terrifying power of thunder immediately rushed toward one of them like an octopus. Boom! With a loud sound, one of the sacrificers who cultivated the body venomous technique was directly hit by the power of thunder. Without any hesitation, he was instantly blasted into pieces. When it exploded, there was no blood spurting out. It was like a pile of shriveled and burnt insect shells. The pungent smell of burnt flesh filled the air. The other person saw that his companion was actually blasted into pieces with a single move. Although he was shocked, he knew that the other party had used up all his chances. He had to kill the person in front of him with a single move. Otherwise, when the other party had the time, he would definitely counterattack. Die, rock-piercing thorn. Immediately, the sacrificer's entire body left the ground. His body was parallel to the ground as he charged toward Li Zongjio. In the process of flying, his body seemed to have become a sharp thorn. However, Li Zongjio directly threw a punch. It hit the sacrificer's head. Immediately, a surge of origin power blasted into the sacrificer's body. His head, which originally had the power to pierce through mountains, was directly turned into a pile of fragments in front of Li Zongjio's fist. The moment the fist and the head collided, it directly caused a violent explosion. Boom! The sacrificer's body also exploded on the spot, exploding into countless fragments. Two of the top experts in the Southern Borders Poison sect actually had no power to fight back in front of Li Zongjio. Seeing this scene, Dao Xian, who was lucky enough to escape before, suddenly widened his eyes. What? This person is actually so powerful. Even if he used the resurrection technique, it's not impossible to resurrect him. Dao Xian said coldly. His tone also revealed extreme fear. This was really unbelievable. Now he understood that Li Zongjio let him escape before because he wanted to find this place. 1,000 insect killing array. The two worshippers of the Gu control technique lifted their black robes. Suddenly, There was a loud boom and a terrifying vibration swept forward. Boom! It was as if there was an additional black space in the space in front of them. In fact, this black space was filled with countless tiny insects. However, these insects were injured and did not fly very far away. They were burning with terrifying flames, just like the flames that burned the countless night crows just now. These terrifying flames instantly ignited the insects in front of them. They were directly burned to nothing. What? Not good. This person is skilled in flames. Retreat. Ordinary flames could not burn these insects completely. Only some flames with special abilities could achieve such an effect. Obviously, the flames in Li Zongjio's hands were filled with such power. Chong Yi immediately shouted. The four of them hurriedly fled into the distance, at the same time using the insect escape technique. One of them changed his body on the spot, and with a boom, he turned into countless vampire bats. As for the other person, he simply drilled into the ground. Chong Yi brought Dao Xen with him and flew into the distance. The four of them immediately fled, but unfortunately, Li Zongjio did not intend to let them leave. Even if they struggled with all their might, it was useless. Regardless of whether they flew or drilled into the ground, they were all blocked by the terrifying blood wall in front of them. With a bang, Chong Yi and Dao Xen both crashed into the blood wall in front of them. Chong Ye's body instantly retreated, and he dashed to the side. However, Dao Xen was directly sucked into the blood wall. Blood continued to flow out from the blood wall, gradually wrapping around the Dao letter in front of him. Save me, Dao Xen immediately shouted, but his voice became softer and softer. In the end, his entire body was swallowed by the blood flowing down from the blood wall, and he was completely integrated into the blood wall. Realm power! Chong Ye's eyes were instantly filled with fear. He had never imagined that Li Zongjio would be able to display the power of a domain. A face appeared from the ground, and it was the person who drilled into the ground just now. The sacrificer reached out his hand towards Chong Yi, but in the end he could only reluctantly grab onto Chong Ye's shoes. His body was also gradually dissolved into nothingness. Without a doubt, the other person was also completely devoured. Who exactly are you? My poison order of the southern region, what enmity do we have with you? Elder Chong Yi took a deep breath. He knew that he could not escape this time, and now it was up to him to see if there was any room for negotiation. Don't misunderstand, the enmity is not deep. I just don't like you guys. Li Zongjio's figure appeared, and he said with a faint smile. The power of the blood spirit world seemed to be gradually increasing. Even the king stage expert was digested in less than a minute. Recommend a good friend's fantasy novel, Divine Sacred Martial. Don't forget to vote after reading it. Chapter 616. Upon hearing Li Zongjio's words, Chong Yi was taken aback. What did he mean by that? It was purely because he didn't like him. Could it be that this world had changed to killing someone just because they didn't like him? Do you know who you have offended? The poison order of the southern region will not let you off. Chong Yi said coldly. He then looked around and continued to speak to Li Zongjio. If you let me go, I will treat it as if these people were killed by someone else. I will not reveal any information about you. How about that? I guarantee that the poison order of the southern region will not find trouble with you. Chong Yi said. At this moment he also felt a trace of pressure. The blood spirit world around him also began to devour him. Hence, when the energy surged towards him, Chong Yi became nervous. Immediately, Chong Yi released his energy and formed a layer of defense below him. I will consider what you said. Li Zongjio nodded. It seemed like a good idea. After hearing Li Zongjio's words, Chong Yi thought that he had a chance. However, in the blink of an eye, Li Zongjio's figure disappeared from the blood spirit world. What was the meaning of this? Didn't you say that you will consider it? Why did you leave? Hey kid, don't go. After Li Zongjio left, the blood spirit world did not disappear. To be precise, in Chong Ye's perspective, the blood spirit world's power was still there, trapping him within. No! Chong Yi shouted loudly. His elemental energy blasted out in all directions, trying to destroy the blood spirit world. However, all his energy was only integrated into the blood spirit world. Finally, from the soles of his feet, the melting force grew and melted Chongyi. Chongyi seemed to have fallen into a pool of blood. His flesh and organs were disappearing bit by bit, completely absorbed by the blood spirit world. The entire empty blood spirit world was filled with Chongyi's painful screams. There was not even a single listener. Furthermore, Li Zongjio had intentionally slowed down the melting speed of the blood spirit world. This way, Chongyi would be able to feel the fear of death even more clearly. Li Zongjio didn't care about Chongyi at all. Chongyi was probably still wondering if Li Zongjio would suddenly appear and tell him that he had thought it through. Chongyi didn't expect that since he had already decided to kill Li Zongjio, why would Li Zongjio give him the last strand of hope? Li Zongjio's figure reappeared on the Moonwell Mountain. When Li Zongjio released the blood spirit world, the blood spirit world would form a force and descend on this space. Looking from the outside, one would not be able to see what was happening inside the blood spirit world. At the same time, the blood spirit world was good at camouflage with the spatial attribute, making it look normal. It was like an illusory wall in disguise. However, it was transparent. One could enter the blood spirit world from this wall at any time. It was just that it was easy to enter, but wanting to leave was harder than ascending to the heavens. If Li Zongjio did not summon the blood spirit world, the blood spirit world would be hidden in the blood dragon rune on the elemental bead. As the saying goes, a world in a flower. In reality, everything was infinitely big. It was just a matter of whether one had the ability to discover and use it. Come out. After hiding for so long, you want to ambush me? Li Zongjio said indifferently. Yunqi sighed. The person who came was none other than Li Zongjio, whom he had met in the Spring Flower and Autumn Moon Tower. He thought that he would not be able to escape this time. Even if he had to die, he could not fall into the hands of these southern border poison sect members. Otherwise, he would definitely be tortured by these southern border poison sect members until he wished he was dead. Once he fell into their hands, one could imagine his fate. It would definitely not be as simple as death. Just when Yunqi thought that he was done for, Li Zongjio appeared out of nowhere. This was the dream of many people, to be a hero saving a beauty. However, Li Zongjio came alone. Moreover, he gave people the feeling that Li Zongjio was not here to save Yunqi. Even Yunqi himself felt a little embarrassed about this. Initially, he thought that Li Zongjio wouldn't have a good ending. However, when he saw Li Zongjio kill all the people in front of him in just a few moves, he was shocked. At that moment, Yunqi was shocked. This was too fierce. This young man actually had such powerful strength. When he was in the Spring Flower and Autumn Moon Tower, Yunqi had already faintly felt that Li Zongjio's strength was extraordinary. Out of caution, he did not attack Li Zongjio. Now, it seemed that this was a very wise decision. If he had attacked at that time, perhaps Palace Master Yunqi would not have been able to survive until now. He had single-handedly defeated all the people in front of him. How could anyone believe that a mere young man could possess such strength? It was simply beyond their expectations. Just now, Palace Master Yunqi took the opportunity to recover. In addition, the army of night crows in the sky had already been burned to ashes. The bright moonlight also appeared again, causing Yunqi's moon god power to gradually recover. Thank you for saving my life, young master. Yunqi also smiled slightly. However, Li Zongjio could not see it because of the veil on her face. Thank me? Weren't you the one who wanted to kill me in the Spring Flower and Autumn Moon Tower? Li Zongjio said disdainfully. This woman in front of him could still smile. Did she really think that Li Zongjio did not know? When Li Zongjio was collecting protection fees in the Spring Flower and Autumn Moon Tower, he already knew that there was someone hiding there. Later, when he came back to investigate, he found out that these mysterious women in front of him were all from Zishuan Court. In his previous life, Li Zongjio did not have much interaction with Zishuan Court because Zishuan Court went down the path of destruction very quickly. Even if there were people who survived, they were probably in hiding and didn't dare to show themselves. Hearing Li Zongjio's words, Palace Master Yunqi's face was also a little embarrassed. Obviously, she also realized that Li Zongjio actually knew about her existence long ago. At first, she did not dare to believe it. However, when she saw Li Zongjio's powerful strength, she realized that the elders of the poison cult in the southern region did not have the slightest ability to fight back and were directly killed. The whole process could be said to be very calm. There was not the slightest accident, and he killed them all so easily. Even she, who had the strength of a third-grade Yuan king, could not break out of the encirclement. These ruthless people were all killed by the young man in front of her. How could it be easy? I don't dare. Yunqi only wanted to ensure the safety of the disciples of the same sect. If young master did not have any evil intentions, Yunqi naturally would not do anything. This sentence was true. After all, no one wanted to provoke some top experts for no reason. For Yunqi, wouldn't that be making enemies for Zishuan court? Even if I have evil intentions, what can you do? Li Zongjio said faintly. There was also a trace of majesty in his eyes. This was the majesty of an expert. Chapter 617. Palace Master Yunqi's expression kept changing. Until now, she still couldn't figure out the purpose of Li Zongjio's visit. Could it be that he wanted to take revenge? Yunqi believes that young master is a righteous warrior, Yunqi said immediately. Anyway, he had to flatter Li Zongjio first. At least, people cared about their reputation. The more powerful a person was, the more they would care about their reputation. If Li Zongjio was praised to the sky, he would probably stay in the sky and refuse to come down. Don't give me that. I didn't ask you to come here for anything else. It's impossible for your Zishuan pavilion to survive under the pursuit of the poison cult in Nanjiang. Right now, your only choice is to cooperate with me. Li Zongjio said. A cold light flashed in Yunqi's eyes. How did Li Zongjio know that they were from Zishuan Pavilion? They didn't come to the city under the banner of Zishuan Pavilion, and they also tried their best to hide all kinds of information about Zishuan Pavilion in order to avoid being traced. However, Li Zongjio still knew about their Zishuan Pavilion. Could it be that Li Zongjio was really so resourceful? Even if Yunqi wanted to deal with Li Zongjio, there was no chance. After all, Li Zongjio's strength gave Yunqi a sense of oppression. However, since Li Zongjio mentioned cooperation, Yunqi wanted to see what Li Zongjio meant first. How do you want to cooperate, young master? So what if you know? We also know Li Zongjio's background very well. Yunqi thought. I want all of you to gather Zishuan court's forces and tell me all the movements of southern Xinjiang's poison cult. Also, give me all the information about the members of southern Xinjiang's poison cult. If there's any movement, report it to me and I'll naturally ferret them out one by one. Li Zongjio said. These words made Yunqi's eyes show a hint of surprise and doubt. What was this young man trying to do? Could it be that he wanted to throw away his life? Not only did he not hide from the poison sect of the southern region, but he also wanted to take the initiative to investigate the movements and whereabouts of these people. Wasn't this equivalent to handing his life over to them? This was an extremely dangerous thing to do. You mean? Palace Master Yunqi couldn't help but ask. She looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. I was just about to kill them all, but I didn't have enough information, so I spared your life. Li Zongjio looked at Palace Master Yunqi and said, if all of you are unable to be of any use, there is no need for me to act. The southern border poison sect will capture all of you sooner or later. These words were absolutely true. Even though they were hiding in Royal City, they still managed to find them. Moreover, they seemed to have figured out their whereabouts. After all, these people from Zishuan Pavilion already carried a hint of fear when they were being hunted down by Southern Border's poison cult. The other party's strength was too strong. It wasn't something they could easily resist. However, was this the kind of cooperation Li Zongjio proposed? It seemed that Zishuan Pavilion didn't contribute anything during the entire process. They only needed to organize the collected information and make a backup copy for Li Zongjio. It seemed very simple. There wasn't any problem. For Yunqi, such a good thing was naturally something she couldn't ask for more. If Li Zongjio was willing to deal with these people, it couldn't be better. These terrifying people. She could only invite such a terrifying person to deal with them. Don't worry, young master. Zishuan Pavilion will definitely do our best to assist young master. Yun Qi said hurriedly. Okay. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Then, he turned around and prepared to leave. Otherwise, why would he continue to stay here? There were still Yuan inscription formations in Bailu Manor to be perfected. Now, Li Zongjio also knew that he had to prepare to add something to his Yuan inscription formation. It was the camouflage formation. Once this killing formation was activated, the outside world would be able to clearly see the effects of this formation. In that case, wouldn't it be easy for others to study it? The strength of the Yuan inscription formation itself lay in its concealment and unpredictability. Therefore, Li Zongjio also prepared to perfect it. In addition, there was also that guy, Lu Wenshan. Nantian Pill King was probably preparing the ransom during this time. This guy didn't seem to be so honest. If he made any more trouble, Li Zongjio wouldn't mind killing him directly. Young master, wait a moment. Palace Master Yunqi looked at Li Zongjio, who turned around and was about to leave. She quickly shouted, "You're leaving too quickly." She couldn't help but think that Li Zongjio's purpose was too simple. He simply wanted to kill all the people from the poison cult in the southern region. Therefore, he saved her life in passing. He didn't have any other purpose at all. Although her Zishuan court wasn't a top force, it also had its own characteristics. Nowadays, materialistic desires were rampant. If someone helped you a little bit and didn't take advantage of you, you would feel a little embarrassed. What's the matter? Li Zongjio stopped and asked. Young master saved my life tonight. Yun Qi also has something to tell you. Take it as a token of my appreciation. Palace Master Yun Qi said slowly. Up until now, not many people knew about this information. Now that there was no one around and Li Zongjio saved her life, it would indeed be a little ungrateful if she didn't tell him. Say it. The ninth prince, young Master Xian Ming, has already reached an alliance agreement with the Changxing Pavilion in order to obtain the Universe 9 revolving needle. Yun Qi looked at Li Zongjio and said, this was a matter that had caused an uproar in the Holy Flame Imperial City recently. Yun Qi naturally had to pay attention to it. Li Zongjio only responded indifferently. It even sounded like a piece of useless news. The ninth prince you're talking about is the trash from last time, right? Trash? Although the ninth prince's innate talent was ordinary, but after cultivating the bright moon Jin Qi, his strength had also advanced by leaps and bounds. Now, his progress was so fast that although he couldn't be regarded as an absolute genius, but he absolutely couldn't be related to this waste. However, in Li Zongjio's eyes, that ninth prince was just a trash. Now that Li Zongjio was the strongest, he naturally wouldn't accept any rebuttal. Yun Qi also wasn't stupid enough to argue with Li Zongjio. Yes, it's the one who argued with you last time. Although the ninth prince's strength isn't to be feared, the people from the Changxing Pavilion who came this time are not simple. Yun Qi said in a deep voice. The ninth prince's family background was just average. Although he had obtained the identity of a prince and was born noble, he might not be favored by the emperor. Even the position of the crown prince needed to undergo a fierce competition and fight. Before he became the real crown prince, everything was uncertain. Therefore, the ninth prince had no choice but to cooperate with Zishuan Pavilion and Yun Qi. Who is it? The pavilion master of the Changxing Pavilion is here? Li Zongjio asked. The pavilion master of the Changxing Pavilion was naturally a top figure. Even the current Li Zongjio had to be somewhat afraid of him. For the time being, he couldn't have a conflict with such a top expert. After all, the Changxing Pavilion could become a top figure in the alchemy world. The pavilion master himself had supreme power. Although Li Zongjio's strength was enough, Luoxia City might not be able to resist him. No, it's the young pavilion master of the Changxing Pavilion, Pei Si. Chapter 618. Young Pavilion Master, Pei Si? Palace Master Yun Qi heaved a sigh of relief when she saw Li Zongjio's expression turn serious. At the very least, Li Zongjio was willing to listen to her. Pei Si's strength was not simple. On top of that, he was the young pavilion master. Not everyone could go against him. The young pavilion master is just a kid? Li Zongjio squeezed out this sentence after a long time. Palace Master Yun Qi, who was beside him, was also stunned. What did he mean? Could it be that Pei Si, the young pavilion master of Changsheng Pavilion, was just a kid in Li Zongjio's eyes? Was he looking down on Pei Si? It had to be said that Li Zongjio's temper was really arrogant. Did Li Zongjio think that only the pavilion master of Changsheng Pavilion could pose a threat to him? Did he think that Li Zongjio was the only one who could make Li Zongjio avoid him? Did he look down on the rest of the people? That was really shocking. Pei Si should be 25 years old this year. Yun Qi did not know how to continue the conversation. If he said yes, wouldn't he be more of a kid than Pei Si? Okay, I got it. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said. Then, his figure disappeared into the night sky. Yun Qi's face was filled with shock and he could not calm down for a long time. Arrogant, conceited, self-righteous? I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to work with such a person. Yun Qi was frowning. However, he had managed to escape a calamity tonight. This caused Yun Qi to become vigilant. These people had already infiltrated the sacred flame royal city. It was impossible to guard against them. Chong Yi said that there was someone behind the poison sect in the southern region. I have to investigate this thoroughly. Now that the city was in turmoil, there were all kinds of people mixed together. There were all kinds of strange situations that could occur. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, if one wanted to survive in this precarious situation, one needed to have sufficient strength and sufficient information. Although the night was thrilling, it was more or less a close call. Palace Master Yun Qi could not help but sigh. Her luck was really good. Li Zongjio's figure flashed and returned to the White Deer Manor. He continued to carve the Yuan inscription formation. After all, the Yuan inscription formation's effect was very strong. In addition, it had a great effect on mental strength. Therefore, he had to replenish it. It might not be a bad thing to use such a method to cultivate during normal times. There must be a concealment array formation. Then, I have to think about what array formation won't conflict with this. As Li Zongjio pondered, he quickly recalled a type of maze array. When activated, not only could it conceal the situation in the manor, but it could also create a maze effect. In Li Zongjio's opinion, this kind of thing had a good effect. He would learn it in the future, and then he would study some other formations. After toiling for nearly an hour, Li Zongjio had just finished carving the origin stones for the maze formation. After he finished setting it up, he was ready to test the effect of his formation. Suddenly, he saw a glimmer of light on the formation plate. This meant that someone had entered the manor. Although Li Zongjio's manor was not very big, the front and middle courtyards were at least 500 or 600 square meters. It was not small at all. It just so happens that I was lacking a little white mouse, and you came in by yourself. Li Zongjio thought and was not in a hurry to take action. Anyway, he wanted to try the effect of the maze formation first. He would kill those who did not necessarily break in. Occasionally, it would be a good choice to play with these little white mice in the palm of his hand. Whoosh! A nimble and vigorous figure jumped into the manor with ease. This Li Zongjio is really bold. Now that he has gotten himself into such big trouble, he still dares to be so relaxed. Even I can come in so easily. If other people want to take your life, wouldn't it be even easier? Dou Ling-er thought to herself. In order to make tonight's operation more convenient, she had specially changed into a set of night clothes. The exquisite attire also accentuated Dou Ling-er's figure incisively and vividly, making it hard for people to take their eyes off her. Because of the Universe 9 rotating needle, the city had been very lively recently. Dou Ling-er had already heard that the people of Valley Immortal Sect and Spirit Valley Sect were here. They all wanted to deal with Li Zongjio. Obviously, Dou Ling-er's own information was very outdated, because Li Zongjio had already dealt with the people of Valley Immortal Sect and Spirit Valley Sect. Therefore, Dou Ling-er, who had received the news, was ready to appear at this time and give Li Zongjio a chance. In this way, Li Zongjio could give the universe 9 rotating needle to her in such a serious situation. In this way, he could ensure his own safety. At least, he would not be killed by these people. Dou Ling would naturally attract all the firepower away. Therefore, this was also the last chance for Li Zongjio. Such an action would definitely make Li Zongjio grateful to her. Moreover, Dou Ling also wanted to show her strength. She wanted to directly appear in front of Li Zongjio and use this method to tell him that if she wanted to take his life, it would be as easy as turning her hand. Therefore, in front of others, he was a dead man. After Li Zongjio recognized his position, he would immediately hand over the needle to her. Of course, all of this was just Dou Ling's imagination. Therefore, she came uninvited tonight. Nothing at all? This Li Zongjio can't even afford to hire a guard. If he is not around, what if he is robbed? Dou Ling's heart was already starting to get a headache from Li Zongjio's foolishness. She was mainly worried that her things would not be stolen just like that. However, this thought was completely obliterated by the situation in front of her when Dou Ling took her first step. As soon as Dou Ling took her first step, she immediately saw a thick fog rising around her. When she saw the fog rising around her, Dou Ling was slightly surprised. Where is the fog coming from? Dou Ling subconsciously had an extremely bad premonition. It seemed that the situation in Bailu Villa was not so simple. The thick fog grew thicker and thicker. Dou Ling could no longer see the situation in front of her. When she walked out, she could not even see the wall behind her. Oh no. After a few turns, she could no longer tell the direction. Dou Ling was shocked. Damn it. This is a formation. However, it is impossible for a formation of this level to stump me. Dou Ling immediately released her mental strength. Boom. The fog was completely suppressed. When she looked around, the situation in Bailu Villa was finally revealed. Seeing that her mental strength was effective, Dou Ling's face brimmed with a proud smile. Now you know how powerful I am. Under the tree in the atrium, Li Zongjio and Shadow Fox looked at the formation plate in their hands. It seemed that the effect of their Yuan inscription formation had been eliminated just like that. In fact, when Dou Ling jumped in just now, the Howling Moon Wolf King and Shadow Fox had already noticed her. But when he went out, he saw Li Zongjio here. Moreover, Li Zongjio didn't look panicked at all, so he squatted beside Li Zongjio. They wanted to see what was going on. Chapter 619. Li Zongjio looked at the primordial stone in his hand, which was depleting rapidly. Immediately, he widened his eyes in surprise. Damn? What's going on? The intruder isn't weak. There was a grave look in Li Zongjio's eyes. In just a few moments, the primordial stones in his hand, which were the foundation of the array, were also depleting rapidly. Finally, with a cracking sound, all the primordial stones were exhausted, and the primordial stones cracked on the spot. Obviously, the situation was very bad. How dare you destroy my primordial stones? Let's see how strong you are. Immediately, Li Zongjio activated the Great Killing Array in White Deer manner without hesitation. Life Destruction Array. Boom. Dou Ling had already dispelled the fog that had gathered several times. Under the suppression of her mental energy, it was very easy to disperse the energy. After nearly 10 times, the white fog finally felt tired and stopped seeping out. Therefore, Dou Ling was very pleased with herself. Let's see what other tricks you have. I'll break them all for you. Just as Dou Ling was feeling pleased with herself, there seemed to be a sudden boom. Countless earth spikes rushed towards Dou Ling. As they rotated, the incomparably sharp aura caused Dou Ling to be quite surprised. There's actually such a strange Yuan inscription array. At this moment, Dou Ling couldn't understand the pattern of the Yuan inscription array. Not only did the ground welcome the terrifying earth spikes, but there also seemed to be meteors falling from the sky. Boom! One after another, the tremors fell from the sky. The moment these terrifying forces fell, Dou Ling's heart was deeply shaken. Dou Ling didn't put up her own primordial chi shield. If she did, she would become a live target in this array. Therefore, Dou Ling displayed her own figure and dodged all these attacks. Bang bang bang. From the stones on both sides, there seemed to be several extremely tough ropes that rushed out and swept towards Dou Ling's head. Swoosh. If these ropes directly hit Dou Ling, her head would definitely be blown off in an instant. However, Dou Ling's speed was also very fast. Her figure flickered and easily dodged the ropes. Swoosh. So close. Just now, Dou Ling had felt that terrifying aura pass directly over her head. She felt as if it could easily split her head off. Fortunately, Dou Ling's bodies. Therefore, when these strange aura attacks from all directions, she was not in nurse. These two stones are the most. Dou Ling was no fool. She quickly discovered the two stones in the corner. Although they were hidden in the dark and looked like a landscape, when Dou Ling rushed out, the attacks of the surrounding array suddenly became extremely fierce. Rumble! Get out of my way! Countless black steel sides flew towards Dou Ling. It seemed that with a slight swing, it could directly split a person's head off. However, Dou Ling was enraged. She immediately released the Yuan power in her body. Boom! A powerful and violent explosion instantly sent the sides in front of her flying. At the same time, Dou Ling took advantage of this moment. In this array, after a strike, there would be 3 breaths of time to prepare. It seemed to be buffering for the next attack. Therefore, Dou Ling was able to seize this opportunity. In an instant, she arrived in front of one of the giant stones. Medicine palm. Boom. His palm slammed onto the boulder. Immediately, the boulder in front of him shattered into pieces. The terrifying vibrations caused by the collision caused everyone to feel extremely shocked. The entire White Deer Manor seemed to be trembling. The giant black stone in front of her was shattered into pieces. The power of Dou Ling's palm was not small. In the courtyard, the Yuan stone in Li Zongjiu's hand turned into a pile of dust with a puff sound. Since a portion of the formation had been destroyed, the Yuan rune array's disc array was naturally damaged as well. What? This time, it was Li Zongjiu's turn to be shocked. It seemed that the person who came was not simple. One must know that this being's obliteration array was a grade 5 Yuan pattern array. It was specially designed to deal with Yuan King level elites. Furthermore, Li Zongjiu recalled that this being's obliteration array was based on some principles from 2,000 years in the future. It could be considered the latest Yuan pattern array. Therefore, even an Yuan rune array grandmaster who was still alive wouldn't be able to tell what kind of array it was when he saw the obliteration array. However, this array had only been refined for a short period of time, yet it was almost completely destroyed in one night. The enmity of the grand array, Li Zongjiu naturally could not let it go so easily. This was Li Zongjiu's blood, sweat, and tears. Li Zongjiu had spent a lot of money to create this Yuan pattern array. Li Zongjiu was about to set off to settle the score with this fellow. However, just as he stood up, another high-grade Yuan stone shattered. This meant that another part of the Yuan pattern array had been destroyed. The 2 giant stones in the courtyard had also been destroyed. See if I don't kill you with my sword today. Li Zongjiu's eyes glowed with a ferocious light. Suddenly, he saw a figure descend from the sky with a whoosh. The Howling Moon Wolf King shot up and chased after the figure. When the Howling Moon Wolf King rushed up, Dou Ling was slightly surprised. However, she quickly threw out a copper ring from her sleeve. The copper ring glowed and instantly wrapped around the Howling Moon Wolf King's neck. The Howling Moon Wolf King's throat was suddenly trapped. His entire body stiffened in the air, and then he fell from the sky with a whoosh. Bang! A huge pit was formed on the ground. Beast trapping lock. A glimmer of light flashed across Li Zongjiu's eyes. This was an extremely high-grade Yuan item. The person who could use the beast trapping lock definitely had a strong background. The beast trapping lock could trap the Howling Moon Wolf King, which meant that the person who refined the beast trapping lock was at least in the primitive emperor realm. Could it be that the person in front of him was an Yuan emperor realm expert? Li Zongjiu, I came to save you out of kindness. Are you trying to take my life? Dou Linger's voice came from the sky. Then, Dou Linger's figure appeared from the house in front of him and rushed in front of Li Zongjio. Doppelganger technique? Li Zongjio was surprised. The person in front of him was actually Dou Ling, whom he had met in the Genius Pavilion. Chapter 620. Although Li Zongjio knew that Dou Linger's identity wasn't simple, judging from her performance today, Dou Linger's strength was beyond Li Zongjio's expectations. You broke into my house in the middle of the night just to save me? Li Zongjio looked at Dou Linger in front of him. This girl's strength was really not simple. The Yuan rune formation he painstakingly set up was broken so easily. Li Zongjio couldn't believe it himself. Then why did you set up so many traps in my house to take my life? Dou Linger said arrogantly. She originally wanted to show off her strength to Li Zongjio, but under the threat of Li Zongjio's terrifying formation, Dou Linger felt deeply threatened. So even now, she still had lingering fears. If the formation was a little stronger, or if someone was controlling it at that time, it would be difficult for her to escape. She didn't expect the outside world to be so dangerous. How do I know if you're here to kill me? Yes. Li Zongjio said indifferently, then glanced at the struggling howling moon wolf king on the ground. It seemed to be in great pain and was struggling desperately. Then Li Zongjio walked up and gently tapped the beast-trapping lock on the howling moon wolf king's neck. According to the rhythm of a special method, the beast-trapping lock was unlocked. Dou Linger observed Li Zongjio's skillful movements. He seemed to have a deep understanding of the beast-trapping lock. The beast-trapping lock itself was made in a very special way. Once trapped, unless one knew how to break free, the beast-trapping lock would only bind them even tighter if one tried to break free. You actually know the method to unlock the beast-trapping lock. Dou Linger saw this scene and was very surprised. However, when she saw Li Zongjio remove the beast-trapping lock and put it into his storage ring, Dou Linger's face turned purple. You shameless bastard! Give me back my beast-trapping lock. When Dou Linger saw Li Zongjio acting like a bandit, she knew that things weren't going well. If this thing fell into Li Zongjio's hands, then he would definitely take it for himself. You destroyed my Yuan rune formation and 2 upper-grade primordial stones. Take this beast-trapping lock as compensation. Consider yourself lucky. Li Zongjio said slowly. There was a trace of anger in Dou Linger's eyes, but there was nothing she could do in the face of this rascal. Fine, I'll give you the beast-trapping lock, but you have to give me the Universe 9 revolving needle. Dou Linger said. Seeing that she couldn't get the beast-trapping lock back, she didn't insist. Although the beast-trapping lock was a precious item, Dou Linger had other things. Besides, Dou Linger did destroy Li Zongjio's Yuan rune formation. Li Zongjio already gave her a lot of face by not catching her and teaching her a lesson. Moreover, he only took away the beast-trapping lock. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to get their life back. Then you're too late. The Universe 9 revolving needle should have reached the Blackwater Forest by now. Li Zongjio waved his hand helplessly and said, What did you say? Dou Linger was shocked. She looked at Li Zongjio in disbelief because she couldn't believe how Li Zongjio did it. How did he manage to send the beast-trapping lock back? The journey to the Blackwater Forest was very long. Could it be that Li Zongjio also had a doppelganger technique that allowed him to send the item to a place that was thousands of miles away and then come back? How could such an important item be given to someone else to escort? Dou Linger couldn't think of anyone who could do this. Even Dou Linger wouldn't be willing to hand over something so precious to them. The risk would be too great if that was the case. You don't believe me? You can ask the old man in the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion's library when he comes back. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Looking at the primordial stones in his hand, he began to worry. These primordial stones were very important to Li Zongjio. 2 primordial stones were wasted just like that. These primordial stones were something that couldn't be bought even if one had the money. Ordinary people simply had no way to come into contact with these primordial stones. Even if one had the money, without the channels, it would be impossible. The last time Li Zongjio went directly to Qi Shaohun admired Li Zongjio very much. Therefore, he made an exception for Li Zongjio and used his authority to get some primordial stones for Li Zongjio. However, if Li Zongjio went to Qi Shaohun to ask for primordial stones again, it would be difficult for him to do so. So now Li Zongjio could only think of his own way. Now that the primordial inscription array in the front yard was destroyed, only the primordial inscription array in the courtyard could still be used. The old guy in the library, it's that guy. I wonder why I haven't seen him these days. Dou Ling suddenly stomped her feet in anger. Since you have transferred the things out, why didn't you say so? Do you know how many people want to kill you now? Dou Ling said angrily. This was a matter of life and death. It wasn't something that could be settled so easily. Now that you've moved your things out, you don't even have anything to sign up for. Maybe those people will get angry out of humiliation and directly kill you. Anyway, these people often use this way to vent their anger. This made Dou Ling very angry. Although these things were very important, in her heart, she didn't want Li Zongjio to be killed. You should leave with me now. If you continue to stay here, the people of Valley Immortal Sect and Spirit Valley Sect will not let you go. Dou Ling said with a dignified face. She stepped forward and was ready to pull Li Zongjio away from here. The people you mentioned have been killed by me. Li Zongjio stood still and let Dou Ling pull him away. Dou Ling, who was about to leave, was stunned. You have a fever? You can't be stupid, right? Did you take the wrong medicine? Li Zongjio looked at Dou Ling's stupid face and directly brought her to the stable. Until now, Elder Lu Wenshan from Spirit Valley Sect still looked like he was dying, but at least he could speak now. How dare you? How dare you, Spirit? Spirit Valley Sect. Spirit Valley Sect will not let you go. Chapter 621. After letting Dou Ling see Lu Wenshan, Li Zongjio signaled Yinghu to close the door of the stable. He seems to be recovering a little. Go and work on him a little more. Li Zongjio said. Yinghu immediately understood. Then, he took a hoe from the side and directly rushed forward. He hit Lu Wenshan's body a few times and seriously injured the body that was about to recover. You are too cruel. Dou Ling seemed to be unable to bear the sight of blood. She kept retreating. Just looking at the scene in front of her was enough to make people's scalps tingle. How could this guy be so terrifying? He actually directly captured Elder Lu Wenshan. This was incredible. Although Dou Ling didn't know whether that was Lu Wenshan himself, she could feel the strong Yuan Li that filled Lu Wenshan's body. At the same time, she also knew that Lu Wenshan was an alchemy expert. Although you have dealt with them, there will be a lot of trouble in the future. You may not be able to handle it. So, you should leave quickly. Dou Ling said. Well, I didn't have any good ideas. But since your skills are so good, we can make a deal. Li Zongjio looked at Dou Ling and said, A deal? Dou Ling looked at Li Zongjio with a trace of doubt in her eyes. Could it be that this Li Zongjio has a more powerful needle technique than the 9 revolving universe needle? That's right. Don't you want the second half of the 9 revolving universe needle? There is only one original in the world, but there is still a living needle technique. Li Zongjio said. Dou Ling reacted quickly. Her bell-like eyes stared at Li Zongjio in disbelief. You mean, you have already learned the second half of the 9 revolving universe needle? Dou Ling's eyes revealed endless shock. After a long time, her lips moved slightly. Braggart! The universe 9 revolving needles was a needle technique that possessed supreme attainments. Originally, there was only the first half of it in this world. Later on, it gradually spread out. Moreover, there were many people who indirectly confirmed that the second half of the universe 9 revolving needles was in the Genius Tower. This was the reason why so many geniuses were attracted to participate in the assessment of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Just the Genius Tower's grandeur alone was enough to make these students scramble like ducks. Who wouldn't want to experience such a training ground that could infinitely increase one's alchemy level? Even this kind of cultivation method was an unimaginable state that was difficult to describe. It gave people the feeling that one only needed to enter the Genius Pavilion, sleep, and have a very difficult dream. When one woke up, everything would be solved. The treasures in the Genius Tower made these geniuses go through untold hardships, even forgetting to eat and sleep to explore the Genius Tower. The Universe Record. Li Zongjio opened his mouth and recited a short paragraph of text. Although it seemed simple, the text contained a myriad of meanings. An outsider might find it a little tongue-twisting, but to a true expert, it was undoubtedly as precious as a supreme secret manual. You actually learned it. If an ordinary person wanted to learn the first half of the universe 9 revolving needles, it would take them at least 70 years. This was only possible if they had a certain level of talent. Generally, pharmacists who had some basic talent would be able to learn slightly faster. The universe 9 revolving needles had a total of 9 sets of universe 9 revolving needles. The first volume recorded 5 sets of needle techniques, while the second volume only had 4 sets. However, the realm of these 4 sets of needle techniques was quite profound. It even went directly to another level. Although no one had seen it before, it could be roughly inferred. Even a genius would need at least 20 years to fully understand the universe 9 revolving needles. No matter how powerful Li Zongjio was, it was impossible for him to recite the universe 9 revolving needles in just a few days or even directly learn it. This thing is not very difficult, Li Zongjio said disdainfully. The reason why it was difficult for ordinary people to learn it was because they had not reached the realm yet. In fact, after reaching the realm, these things could be directly mastered. One only needed to look at it once to know what was going on. There was no need to spend more time to understand what the realm was. Therefore, Li Zongjio only needed 2 hours to directly memorize the universe 9 revolving needles. This was because the original universe 9 revolving needles had a Yuan Qi seal on it. It was impossible to copy it, so one could only memorize it through recitation. Li Zongjio directly memorized it, so now he could easily grasp it. You are too scary. Dou Ling already did not know what words to use to describe Li Zongjio. Originally, the universe 9 revolving needles was in Dou Ling-er's bag because she had already seen all the so-called genius experts in Tianshan Medicine Manor. Therefore, Dou Ling-er was not worried at all. However, after Li Zongjio appeared, he directly overtook her in a few days. If this thing was taken away by others, wouldn't all her efforts be in vain? Moreover, with Dou Ling-er's temper, she would never allow anyone to be more powerful than her. However, the reality was cruel. Dou Ling-er also later realized that she could not catch up with Li Zongjio, so she directly gave up. Now, Li Zongjio not only got the thing in his hand, but also learned it all. This was already an extremely heavy blow to Dou Ling. One must know that it took her nearly a year to learn the first part of the universe 9 revolving needles. Even now, she still needed to practice constantly to be able to integrate this needle technique. It was not really a true learning, but at most, it was a preliminary mastery. Tell me what kind of deal? Let's make it clear first. I am a girl from a decent family. Dou Ling-er also said with some vigilance. She was not a person who would do any deal. If it was for this thing, there was no need to sell her most precious thing. Li Zongjio rolled his eyes. This Dou Ling-er was too impatient. What was there to be concerned about with someone like her? What was so good about an immature little girl like her? After all, Li Zongjio was an experienced person, not a young lad who had just opened his eyes. Aren't you very good at fighting? Then for the next month, you can be my fighter. In a month's time, I will teach you the complete universe 9 revolving needles. Are you serious? When Dou Ling-er heard this, her eyes suddenly lit up. However, she quickly became vigilant. No, I can't help you kill people. Killing people is illegal, and I can't see blood, Dou Ling-er said seriously. Chapter 622. I didn't ask you to kill anyone. Why are you so cruel? Li Zongjio said with a look of disgust. It seemed that he despised Dou Ling-er's ruthless character. Yinghu saw that Li Zongjio still had the face to show such an expression. He really admired Li Zongjio. Speaking of cruelty, who could compare with you? After all, no one could casually split a person in half. Such a magnificent feat was not something that anyone could do. Then you want me to be your fighter? Be my fighter. That means you'll fight whoever I want you to. If someone comes to beat me, you'll help me beat him until he's scared. Li Zongjio said. That simple? Dou Ling looked at Li Zongjio. Fighting was a common thing for Dou Ling. Therefore, Dou Ling directly agreed. Li Zongjio nodded. You can't bleed. If you bleed, I will have to find someone to protect you. You have to be careful. Li Zongjio said. Just now, Dou Ling said that she could not bleed. Obviously, Li Zongjio also listened to her. She was so useless, yet she learned to be a night ranger. Originally, Li Zongjio also had Santong as his personal bodyguard. However, Santong was also sent out by Li Zongjio to practice his skills and improve his strength. He might not be able to return in a short time. In addition, there were so many things happening in the city recently. With Dou Ling's strength and identity, she would definitely be able to help Li Zongjio. It's none of your business. Dou Ling did not explain why she could not bleed. No one knew what would happen after she saw blood. However, since she had already agreed to be Li Zongjio's fighter, and it was only for a month, it would be over in a blink of an eye. Therefore, Dou Ling was also looking forward to it. After a month, she would be able to obtain the top 9 Revolutions Universe Needle technique. This was something that she had been dreaming of. Inghu, arrange a room for her. Li Zongjio said. Young master, our courtyard is so small. Where can we find an extra room? Inghu could not help but say. Then let her sleep in the study room or the woodshed. You. Dou Ling heard Li Zongjio's words and suddenly became angry. She wanted to catch this Li Zongjio and beat him. How dare he treat her like this? When she was in the family, she had to sleep in the study room and the woodshed. One must know that when she was in the family, she had a mattress with golden silks peacock fur. 3 layers mattress had 3 layers. S2 was to snows? She. Okay. Inghu replied and then turned to look at Dou Ling. When he was about to say something, he saw the faint smile on Dou Ling's face. In addition, she inadvertently blew on her little fist. He had clearly seen Dou Ling's strength before. Even the Dark Knight army could not resist. More than half of the formation was directly dismantled by Dou Ling. Even after dismantling the Yuan inscription formation that the young master painstakingly made, the young master did not seem to do anything to her and even allowed her to continue living. This meant that the strength of the girl in front of him was definitely not simple. How about, sleep in my room, and I'll sleep in the study room? Inghu hesitated for a while and even said in a probing tone. What do you think? Dou Ling stretched her body and seemed to be preparing for a good exercise. Inghu could only say in his heart that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Then, he directly walked into his room and tidied up his things. Inghu usually had obsessive-compulsive disorder, so the room was neat and tidy. Dou Ling was very satisfied with the appearance. At the very least, the table and the cupboard were spotless. You, from now on, guard the door for me. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Dou Ling pointed at the Howling Moon Wolf King and said. The Howling Moon Wolf King was originally lying in the courtyard. Its shoulder was the responsibility of guarding the entire manor. Now, a woman actually dared to come and order it around. Immediately, the Howling Moon Wolf King revealed its ferocious appearance. It bared its tough fangs and its eyes were filled with ferocity. It seemed as if it was ready to bite off Dou Ling's neck in the next second. On the other hand, Dou Ling very naturally swung a small collar in her hand. The collar also rotated on her slender fingers. When the originally ferocious Howling Moon Wolf King saw this scene, the expression on its face immediately receded. Its mouth full of fangs also directly retracted. At the same time, it obediently wagged its tail and walked to the front of Dou Ling's house. Right on the stairs, it laid down outside. Looking at the loyal expression on its face, it was not easy for anyone to get close to Dou Ling's room. After all, the Howling Moon Wolf King could feel the power of the beast-trapping lock in Dou Ling's hand. When it fell from the sky just now, the Howling Moon Wolf King was severely injured. All of its power seemed to have been sealed at that moment. This feeling caused the Howling Moon Wolf King to feel a lingering fear. A Yuan beast was very sensitive to dangerous things. Therefore, the incomparably ferocious Howling Moon Wolf King directly admitted defeat and acted as a loyal gatekeeper at Do Linger's door. Purple Pill Institute. At this moment, South Heaven Pill King was also full of hostility. At present, Vice Principal Jing and the others were also gathered in the reception hall. The Elder is here. There was a slight change in South Heaven Pill King's eyes. The Elder's identity was not simple. He was one of the founding elders of Spirit Valley Sect. In the realm of alchemy, he was even more skilled than South Heaven Pill King. Although he had not broken through the realm of the 6th grade yet, but within the next 10 years, he would definitely break through. Not long ago, this elder had managed to successfully concoct a grade 6 medicinal pill under an unexpected circumstance. This meant that this elder's strength would increase by another step. In the end, he would reach the realm of the 6th grade alchemist. If he became a 6th grade alchemist, his status would also rise. This was a matter of no doubt. Elder Tsang Chu, welcome. Vice Principal Jing Yuan had a smile on his face. Looking at the looming figure outside, he hurriedly went up to greet him. However, when he approached the old man, he felt a sharp gaze locking onto him. Beside the elder, there was a black-robed swordsman. Because it was dark, he did not see the black-robed swordsman for a while. Vice Principal Jing, you're too polite. Have a seat. This is my old partner, Black Mountain Sword King. You're Black Mountain Sword King? I've heard a lot about you. Chapter 623. Although the current South Heaven Pill King's alchemy skills were slightly worse than Song Chu's, his innate talent was still very strong. Even now, they were almost on par with each other, and the gap between them wasn't too big. I didn't expect the Black Mountain Sword King to come. Pill King Nantian cupped his hands and said. He greeted Elder Tsang Chu. The combination of Tsang Chu and the Black Mountain Sword King was the golden combination of Spirit Valley Sect. Although Tsang Chu's combat power was not very strong, he could often exert a powerful force with the help of the Black Mountain Sword King. The two great Yuan monarchs had been inseparable for decades. It was because of this that the reputation of Tsang Chu and the Black Mountain Sword King was like thunder to the ears. Compared to him, Vice Principal Jing Yuan was far inferior in terms of both status and strength. However, this was a rare opportunity. Is your dean not here? Tsang Chu questioned Jing Yuan. As a senior in the alchemy world, there was no need for him to be too courteous with Jing Yuan. Even Jing Yuan himself had to be incomparably respectful towards Tsang Chu. Within the Purple Pill Academy, only their dean could speak with Tsang Chu. Previously, they could be considered to have met face to face. As for Jing Yuan, he had never heard of him. The dean is in seclusion. Jing Yuan's face was also a little embarrassed. Nantian, tell me the situation. Since the dean was not here, there was no need to pay attention to Jing Yuan. So what if he was the vice dean? In Tsang Chu's eyes, he was not worth mentioning. Arrogant, condescending, this was Tsang Chu's attitude. Even Tsang Chu himself had such an arrogant temperament. This was emitted from the inside out. Whether it was alchemy, Yuan Qi cultivation, or even contributions to Spirit Valley Sect, they were all incomparable to outsiders. Even Nanshan's status was slightly lower than Tsang Chu's. However, Tsang Chu wouldn't ignore this South Heaven Dan King. A genius elder like the South Heaven Dan King was highly sought after by all the sections. Moreover, the Longevity Pavilion was eyeing them covetously. Therefore, these people had to unite these genius alchemists. In the future, if they were to compete with the Pavilion of Longevity, they would have to rely on these middle-tier powers. Elder, the current situation is like this. The Nantian Pill King then explained the whole story to them. After hearing this, Tsang Chu angrily slapped the table. Too arrogant. This kid is playing with fire and getting burned. Tsang Chu could not hide the killing intent on his face. This was a clear provocation to Spirit Valley Sect. Such actions were undoubtedly a challenge to their sect's dignity. They could not easily forgive such a thing. They would definitely chop this Li Zongjio into 8 pieces. Black Mountain, let's go. I would like to meet this Li Zongjio, Song Chu said and was about to move. Black Mountain Sword King also picked up his sword and was ready to fight. However, he was stopped by Pill King Nantian. When Pill King Nantian said this, he did not mention that Li Zongjio had humiliated and blackmailed him many times. He only said that Li Zongjio threatened him with Elder Lu Wenshan's life and even wanted to fight to the death with them. Therefore, the South Heaven Pill King had no choice but to retreat for the time being. He did not mention that Pill King Nantian had been defeated. If word of this got out, wouldn't it be a very shameful thing? Elder Song Chu, please calm down. Li Zongjio is sinister and cunning. Tonight, he even used a Yuan rune formation. Even Fang Liuxin of Valley Immortal sect was defeated. This matter is not simple. Elder Song Chu's strength was very strong, but his character was too impulsive. He would go and fight with others for no reason, and he would do it until the end. Therefore, the Nantian Pill King had to stop Elder Song Chu. What's more, the people of Chongqing Pavilion have not made a move yet. Maybe they are preparing to be the Oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada. Song Chu calmed down after hearing Pill King Nanshan's words. What happened before was not a big deal. However, the people of Chongqing Pavilion were the ones that Song Chu was afraid of. If they were confident, they would have made a move long ago. Why would they wait until now? There must be some unspeakable secret behind this. Their Spirit Valley sect was fighting to be the first, wave after wave. If they were to reveal their strength, wouldn't it be a waste of their efforts? In front of such an old opponent, it was better to preserve their strength and not relax. Rescuing Elder Lu will require further planning. What good idea do you have? We can't give 100 upper-grade primordial stones. We won't even give a single lower-grade primordial stone. It was not that they could not afford it. If he were to give it to Li Zongjio, wouldn't it be equivalent to him admitting defeat? Spirit Valley sect would lose face in the future. In the future, if there was any situation, the enemy would definitely find out and poke at their sore spot. It's not that there is no way. After saying that, the Nantian Pill King looked at Vice President Jing Yuan. We just got the list. 2 days later, Heavenly Pill Pavilion will hold an exchange banquet for alchemists. Li Zongjio is also on the list. Vice Principal Jing Yuan coughed dryly a few times and said, with Li Zongjio's strength, it was not strange for him to participate in this exchange banquet. After all, this kind of exchange banquet was also to promote the exchange between the senior alchemists and to better integrate and utilize the resources. Not only were there people from the major alchemy institutions, but there were also some people from the Medicine Union, some independent alchemy experts, some alchemists from the Alchemy Hall, and alchemy aristocratic families. As long as their strength reached the standard, they would also accept the invitation. Heavenly Pill Pavilion did not say that they did not want people like Spirit Valley sect to come. In fact, they did not believe that these people would be willing to participate in such an exchange banquet. They would probably steal the limelight of this exchange banquet. It was also a very honorable thing. Therefore, they were very welcome to come. On that day, Elder Song Chu and I went to the banquet to delay Li Zongjio. Black Mountain Sword King took the opportunity to sneak into Li Zongjio's house and rescue Elder Lu Wenshan. Nantian Pill King said, the last time I went there, I already checked. In Li Zongjio's house, there is a Yuan King Realm Yuan Beast and a mysterious Yuan inscription formation. Nantian Pill King looked at Black Mountain Sword King. Black Mountain Sword King's skinny face did not show the slightest change. His eyes slowly focused, and finally emitted a strong killing intent and a disdainful will. I can kill a mere Yuan beast with one sword. As for the Yuan inscription formation, I can break it with one sword. His indifferent tone was filled with boundless arrogance. It seemed that in the eyes of Black Mountain Sword King, there were no more than 3 swords to solve the world's problems. It was very simple and crude to solve. Alright, since that's the case, it's settled then. Those people from the Longevity Pavilion will definitely make their move during the banquet. It's been a long time since I went to meet these old rivals. Song Chu's eyes flashed coldly as he spoke. I'll leave the invitation to Vice Dean Jing Yuan, Nantian Pil King said to Jing Yuan. It's a small matter. Chapter 624. Although Song Chu said that it was a request, it sounded like a command. However, it gave people the feeling that it was an order. Although Jing Yuan was unhappy, there was nothing he could do. The other party's strength was so strong that he couldn't offend him casually. In fact, the reason why the Purple Pill Institute could achieve its current status was because of the support of the Spirit Valley sect. Of course, it was also because of the South Heaven Pill King who acted as the middleman. That was why it was so simple. If they lost this big boss, the Purple Pill Academy wouldn't be able to compete with the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor and the Four Seas Medicine Manor. It wasn't difficult for the Purple Pill Academy to increase the number of slots. Elder Su Hong of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was also very happy recently. Su Hong was naturally aware of some of the things that had happened in the city. However, as the chairman of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, he couldn't be biased towards any side. The existence of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was a very strange position. It obviously came from the influence of the imperial court, but it wanted to take over the alchemists of the underworld. Therefore, the most important thing for the Heavenly Pill Pavilion now was to stabilize the various forces and establish a good relationship between them. Only in this way could they lay the foundation for future development. The Longevity Pavilion was high and mighty. They didn't even care about the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. However, they took the initiative to come and participate in the exchange banquet that would be held in a few days. For the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, this was a historic move. If the Heavenly Pill Pavilion could get the Longevity Pavilion to join them, the influence of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion would undoubtedly be greater. In fact, although the establishment of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was aggressive, they didn't dare to be too ruthless. Once these alchemists had some resistance in their hearts, it might cause some trouble. However, if the Longevity Pavilion joined them, it would undoubtedly increase the prestige of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. In the early stages, they could borrow the prestige of the Longevity Pavilion. However, in the later stages, the strength of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion would also increase. At that time, it would be time to get rid of the donkey after it had outlived its usefulness. Everything was like this. As for what kind of end you would end up with, it would depend on what kind of strength you had. Grandfather, is there a hidden reason why the people from the Longevity Pavilion suddenly want to participate? In front of Su Hong's desk, a girl in white brought Su Hong a bowl of 100-herb tea. The formula of the 100-herb tea was personally created by this girl. It could strengthen one's body and enhance one's physique. Su Hong looked up at the girl in front of him. That disappointing son of his had brought him a very capable granddaughter, which made Su Hong very happy. He even told his granddaughter most of the things that had happened in order to train his granddaughter to become his successor. Helping the Xingyan dynasty unify the entire alchemy world was not an easy task. If he couldn't see it happen in his lifetime, then he could only place his hopes on the next generation, or even the generation after that. The white-clothed girl before him was Su Hong's most beloved granddaughter, Su Sha. Oh, it's Shasha. I've already drunk a few hundred cups of your 100 herbs longevity tea. If I continue drinking, your grandfather will be immortal. Immortality is a good thing, Su Sha said. When the time comes, I'll research a kind of medicine that can rejuvenate you. Su Hong immediately laughed out loud. Being able to have such a happy person by his side could be considered as making up for a trace of tranquility amidst the chaos in this world. If I'm not wrong, these people are here for one person. Su Hong's tone changed, and he also became serious. Who? Someone called Li Zongjio. A trace of curiosity flashed in Su Sha's eyes. At the same time, she quickly recalled the information about this Li Zongjio in her mind. Li Zongjio, the person who was bestowed the qualifications of an alchemist by the emperor last time? Is the Longevity Pavilion interested in him? However, after giving it some thought, she realized that was not quite right. Their Longevity Pavilion had never been so humble. They had always been extremely aloof. No matter how much of a genius you may be, they would never take the initiative to invite you. If you wanted to join the Longevity Pavilion, You would have to go through some very strict tests. It was precisely because the Longevity Pavilion had never lacked geniuses that they never thought highly of alchemists from the outside world. They were also extremely interested in the inheritance of their own sections. If they were to recruit a person with evil intentions who barged into their sects to steal their inheritance, wouldn't that be extremely troublesome? It's him. However, I don't think these people are here to recruit him. You know about the Universe 9 revolving needle, right? Yes, I heard that someone took it out from the 14th floor of the Genius Tower some time ago. Moreover, it was the second part. Could that person be Li Zongjio? This matter was quite serious at that time. However, without certain connections, it was difficult to obtain this information. Su Sha was in charge of other matters previously. Now, Su Sha was considered a small trainee deacon in the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. There were many things that she had to deal with every day. After all, this was the headquarters of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. If there were any matters in the lower branches, they would first be sent here to be dealt with. Su Sha now needed to sort out some information. Her daily affairs weren't easy. The reason why he had arranged such a position for Su Sha was so that Su Sha could understand the general situation in Holy Flame Royal City. This would allow her to have a better understanding of the situation in Holy Flame Royal City in the future. It would be easier for her to take over the job. Everything needed to be done slowly. Yes, the purpose of these people is the Universe 9 revolving needle in Li Zongjio's hands. I originally thought that Li Zongjio would quickly hand it over and even sell it for a good price. However, it seems that he didn't do so. Moreover, it seems that he doesn't intend to sell it. Su Hong said. In fact, Su Hong himself didn't know Li Zongjio very well. However, if he did so now, it would be different from Li Zongjio's temper. Could it be that this little Li Zongjio dares to go against the Changsheng Pavilion? Not only the Changsheng Pavilion, but also the Spirit Valley sect and the Valley Immortal sect. These two sects have already fought with Li Zongjio. Moreover, the people of the Valley Immortal sect seem to have all disappeared overnight. Moreover, Lu Wenshan of the Spirit Valley sect seemed to have been captured by Li Zongjio. Su Hong said. In fact, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion didn't have much jurisdiction over this matter. They didn't even know much about the specific situation. After all, the actions of the Spirit Valley sect and the Valley Immortal sect didn't need to be reported to the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. The Heavenly Pill Pavilion itself wasn't good at tracking and collecting information. There were other imperial court organizations in charge of this matter. What? This Li Zongjio is too powerful. Su Sha's eyes were filled with shock. It wasn't that simple to go against these forces. What's so powerful about it? The more he acts like this, the faster he'll die. These sects are like scoundrels. If the small ones can't do it, the big ones will do it. If the big ones can't do it, the old ones will do it. There's no end to it. When they go crazy, they don't even care about gains and losses. Sometimes, the life and death grudge between two great sects is caused by a small matter. There's no need for such a situation to happen too often. Su Hong said. This was the bad habit of those great sections. They didn't know when to stop. Even if they saw the coffin, they wouldn't shed a tear. For them, face was everything. However, it was precisely because of this that no one dared to provoke the people of these great sections. Because of this, they would often pursue to the end. Chapter 625. Listening to what he said, it was indeed very reasonable. However, Su Sha was also very interested in such a person who dared to barge in. If there's a chance, I would like to meet this person. Su Sha said. Her heart was filled with curiosity towards Li Zongjio. Such a person was indeed rare. Nowadays, which person in this world didn't bully the weak and fear the strong? They were always trying to curry favor with those in power. Although Su Sha's understanding of Li Zongjio was limited to a few words, she knew that he was definitely someone who was able to stand up to these powers. To be able to do something like this, she knew that he was definitely a lofty and arrogant individual. Such a person was either alive or dead. Now that he had finally found a living one, of course, he had to take a good look at it. By the way, is the 6th grade elixir ready for the exchange? Su Hong asked. Although Su Hong was concerned about Li Zongjio, he would never take it too seriously. After all, no matter how bad Li Zongjio was, he was only one person. It was impossible for him to turn the world upside down. Relying on the strength of this person alone, it was impossible to change the situation of this world. It's ready. This time, it will be used for the lottery. The elders in the backyard have designated it as Xianyang grass. Xianyang grass will not be weak. The banquet will be held the day after tomorrow. Go and confirm it again tomorrow to ensure the accuracy of the list and to ensure that everyone is informed. Su Hong said. Don't worry, Grandpa. I have already confirmed these things. Su Sha said. Then I will continue to work. There are still 3 cities' new names that have not been sorted out. I will go and check again. Thank you for your hard work. You should also pay more attention to your body. When the banquet is held, dress up well so that I can introduce you to a few young talents. I think that Jiang Buan from the Jiang family is not bad. Su Hong's ridicule only made Su Sha speed up her pace. She simply ignored Su Hong, who was constantly shouting behind her. TSK, I think that the kid from the Jiang family is not bad. He is handsome and his strength is not bad. The Jiang family's background is also not bad. They can be considered to be well matched. Of course, all of this was just Su Hong's free imagination. The next morning, Li Zongjio opened his eyes. The Yuan bead dragon tattoo in his body trembled slightly. Finally, it returned to its calm state. For the entire night, the white god Fu was constantly circulating and reciting in his mind. However, when Li Zongjio wanted to take out the blood bat sword and study its attributes, he chose to give up. It was better to be safe first. Even though he had the experience of his previous life, he was not completely confident when facing this thing. Li Zongjio naturally had to remain calm. If he were to act rashly, he might bring harm to his cultivation. Young master, Tai-Fi is here. Wenning, who saw Li Zongjio walking out of the door, he hurriedly stepped forward and said. Naturally, he did not dare to disturb Li Zongjio when he was cultivating. What is he doing here? Did something happen? After that, Li Zongjio went to the guest hall to receive Li Zongjio. When he passed by Do Linger's room, he saw the howling moon wolf king lying in front of the door with an aggrieved look. It looked at him as if it was begging for mercy. Li Zongjio didn't care about the spineless howling moon wolf king at all. He could just sit there and slowly enjoy the fear he was feeling. Since even Li Zongjio was unwilling to lend a helping hand, Inghu naturally did not dare to look at it. At most, when the opportunity arose, he would secretly send some meat to this fellow to improve his diet. Before Li Zongjio entered the room, he saw Tai-Fi pacing back and forth. What's wrong? Is someone here to cause trouble? Li Zongjio asked. When Tai-Fi heard Li Zongjio's voice, he immediately went up to Li Zongjio excitedly. Young master, big news, big news. Tai-Fi said as he came forward. Don't worry, speak slowly. Li Zongjio was surprised to see Tai-Fei, the man who dominated the casino, behave in such a manner. Young master. Du Liani was also sitting there. However, because Tai-Fi was blocking her, she did not see him. Young master, Bai Hui Business Alliance invited us to join them. It's Bai Hui Business Alliance. Tai-Fei excitedly said. If it wasn't for the solemnity of the scene, he would have almost started dancing with joy. He wished that he could jump up and down in excitement at this moment. Li Zongjio rolled his eyes at Tai-Fi when he heard that. He thought it was something big. It's just a business alliance. What's so great about it? Young master, Bai Hui Business Alliance is one of the top 10 business alliances in Sacred Flame Royal City. Even the 4 great families are members of Bai Hui Business Alliance. Du Liani said. Rather than calling them members, it was better to say that they were just members in name. However, one had to admit that Bai Hui Business Alliance was powerful. Sacred Flame Royal City was vast. Just the population alone exceeded a few million. Moreover, the daily flow of people was also quite large. Therefore, in terms of business, it was naturally perfect and developed. The competition was fierce. Even the 4 great families were members of Bai Hui Business Alliance. This was enough to show the strength of Bai Hui Business Alliance. In this city, Every shop could be considered a merchant. However, if one's business was not big enough, it would be impossible for one to be invited by the merchant union. This was because there was a limit to the number of businesses that could join the business alliance. For example, Baihui Business Alliance had become a top-notch business alliance. However, the number of businesses that joined the alliance was only 99. Even the 4 great families joined Baihui Business Alliance. However, Baihui Business Alliance was only ranked in the top 10. Obviously, the competition between business alliances was very fierce. There were also many powerful businesses. The 4 great families are also here? Then this business alliance should be quite powerful? If Li Zongjio had to deal with these messy matters, it would be relatively complicated. If the 100 Hui Business Alliance brought people to kill them, then it would be relatively easy to deal with them. Li Zongjio would just have to kill them when the time came. However, now that they had invited him, Li Zongjio could not weigh the pros and cons. He still needed to discuss it with Taifai and Du Liani. Baihui Business Alliance's strength is at least ranked in the top 5 in Sacred Flame Royal City. The benefit of joining the business alliance is that you will be able to enjoy the discounts of other businesses. Even some resources that are not available to you will be able to circulate within Baihui Business Alliance. Du Liani said. Li Zongjio did not seem to be very interested. Therefore, he directly explained the pros and cons of joining the business alliance. As for the requirements of joining the business alliance, other than being invited, you have to pay 50 million purple yuan every year. Taifai added. So much? Li Zongjio was not very interested in the terms and conditions of joining the business alliance. To Li Zongjio, he was not very sensitive. However, when he heard that he had to pay so much money, Li Zongjio's eyes widened. I haven't made any money from you yet, and you want to take away so much money from me? There were almost 100 businesses that joined the business alliance. If each of the 100 businesses had to pay 60 million purple yuan, the membership fee alone would be close to 6 billion purple yuan. Moreover, this was a stable income every year. Wasn't this too much of a fisherman? Although this number was not small, it was a ticket to enter the high-end market. If they could make good use of it, the profits would definitely be more than this. However, looking at Li Zongjio's expression, Taifai and Du Liani could not help but feel a little worried. What if Li Zongjio did not agree? I'll leave these matters to you. As long as you can make money, you can do whatever you want. However, Li Zongjio was not a pedantic person. Seeing the changes in their expressions, he immediately said. The two of them thought that Li Zongjio would refuse because joining the business alliance was bound to have certain restrictions. However, this was a rare opportunity for business people. The reason why they were able to get this opportunity was because of the destruction of the Yi family. Therefore, when the White Deer Manor merged with the forces under the Yi family, the people of the Baihui Business Alliance went straight to Taifai. Then what should we name our business alliance? In addition to being excited, they also wanted to confirm this important point. Once they joined the business alliance, it would not be a small matter anymore. We still need a name? Then let's call it Li's Jiangshan. Chapter 626. Li Zongjio said without thinking. As soon as he said that, not only Taifai and Du Liani, but even Yinghu, who was outside the mall, almost fell down. Li's empire? Are you trying to rebel? Now the whole world belongs to the Xingyan dynasty. Does Li Zongjio want to take it away? This is obviously an incredible name. No one dares to have such a name. Young master, this name doesn't conform to the rules. According to the rules, it can only be so-and-so Chamber of Commerce, so-and-so Trading Company, and so on. Taifai braced himself and said, if you tell Li Zongjio this, you can't say it like that. Maybe it will trigger Li Zongjio's rebellious mentality and make Li Zongjio insist on such a name. That will undoubtedly bring disaster to himself. Even if he wants to rebel in the current situation, he can only think about it. If he says it out loud, he will probably lose his head. Well, then we'll call it Li's Chamber of Commerce. Li Zongjio said, it doesn't matter what the name is, as long as its surname is Li. It won't be so troublesome to deal with this matter. This is okay, It shouldn't be a problem. Tai-Fi and others looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. If Li Zongjio insisted, it would be hard to say. By the way, young master, I've found the thing you asked me to investigate last time. Tai-Fi glanced at Du Lianyi, and finally his eyes fell on Li Zongjio. Go ahead. Xiao Tianche, the son of the Imperial Guard commander, is now the deputy commander of the Right Army of the Imperial Palace. His latest activity is the guard work of the Alchemist Exchange meet in Monarch City tomorrow. Tai-Fi said, Xiao Tianche, that is, Du Lianyi's enemy. When Du Lianyi heard this name, her whole body trembled. She wanted to twist this person's head off, even if it would splatter blood all over her body. Monarch City Alchemist Exchange meet, what a familiar name. When Li Zongjio heard this name, he thought carefully for a while. Alas, I'm old and I forget things easily. I'm supposed to attend this thing tomorrow. Well, you come with me tomorrow. I'll take his head off for you. Li Zongjio said. The first sentence was the first sentence. It was strange that he was old. Old. Was old. And they were in their 30s, 40s, and 50s? They were all old monsters? Then those in their 30s, 40s, or 50 years were old, they were old? Is true? Du Lianyi couldn't believe it herself. Li Zongjio actually wanted to bring her to personally witness the scene of him killing his enemy with his own hands. How can it be fake? Li Zongjio said indifferently. But I heard that the quota for this exchange meeting is very precious. It's not easy to get one. Now that the meeting is about to start, where can we get extra invitations? Tai-Fi said with a frown. If I, Li Zongjio, want to go to a place, why would I need an invitation? But if you want an invitation, don't we have a master of forgery here? Li Zongjio looked at Yinghu, who was listening attentively. When he saw Li Zongjio looking at him, Yinghu was stunned. What's there to fake? I never fake. That's better. I'll leave the matter of the invitation to you. Come to me tomorrow and we'll go there together. Li Zongjio said. Now, he had to continue studying the Yuan rune array. At the same time, he was preparing to make a trip to the black market in the Sacred Flame Royal City. Li Zongjio needed to obtain some of these Yuan stones. Otherwise, his Yuan rune formation would be in a half-destroyed state and Li Zongjio would suffer a loss. He was going to participate in the exchange meeting tomorrow. Maybe someone would rush into the White Deer Manor and rescue Lu Wenshan. After all, Li Zongjio was alone. Li Zongjio couldn't possibly bring Lu Wenshan with him. The only way was to repair the Yuan rune array. You stay in the manor today. If anyone comes in, beat them out. Li Zongjio said to Do Ling, who had just woken up. This girl was so good at sleeping. Who was going to protect who? Looking at Do Ling's sleepy appearance, Li Zongjio didn't count on her anymore. Don't worry, I'm here. Don't worry. After Do Ling finished speaking, she went back to her room and fell asleep again. Li Zongjio had explored the black market in his previous life. This time, he didn't need someone to lead him. He only needed to find the person to enter the black market. Sacred Flame Royal City had a longevity street that specialized in selling incense. The entire street was filled with shops that sold incense and candles. However, some people who were dressed very cautiously could be seen walking in and out. They seemed to be in a hurry, but they didn't seem to be buying incense or anything like that. This was the famous Ghost King night market in the city. Incense paves the way and ghosts open the door. If one wanted to enter the night market, one had to know the door. If there were no ghosts to open the door for you, it would be difficult to find the door. Even if you found it, you wouldn't be able to enter. Li Zongjio came to the longevity street and found a relatively large incense shop. Walking in, the shop was filled with things like wreaths, shrouds, coffins, firecrackers, and the like. The few shop assistants were weakly using the feather dusters in their hands to sweep the non-existent dust on the corner of the wall. Even when they saw Li Zongjio walk in, they didn't move at all. It was as if they didn't see him. Is the boss here? Li Zongjio asked directly. Why are you looking for the boss? A waiter turned around and asked. This waiter was as thin as a match and his face was devoid of any color. He looked like a living corpse, which really made people feel a trace of fear. Buying a coffin. How much did you prepare? 3 gold and 2 silver. When the 2 waiters heard this, they looked at each other. Then, they took down a large roll of incense and candles from the counter. Follow me. The design of these codes was passed down to the present day and not many people cared about it. But as long as they matched, they could enter the black market. One of the shop assistants continued to look after the shop, while the other gave Li Zongjio a shroud for Li Zongjio to wear. The candles in his hands were lit. Then, he walked towards the cellar behind the counter. In fact, the shroud only looked like a shroud in appearance. In reality, it was a yuan tool that could conceal one's aura and appearance. However, it was suitable for use in the black market. This was because the black market itself had a huge yuan pattern array. Transactions in this place were always done with cash and bank notes. There were absolutely no promissory notes. In the pitch-black passage, one couldn't see where the end of the road was. Li Zongjio walked for about 200 steps before he saw a solid wooden door in front of him. Have fun on the Yellow Springs Road. The shop assistant pushed open the wooden door. After Li Zongjio walked in, the door behind him closed with a bang. This was an underground street. Chapter 627. Li Zongjio had had enough of those idiotic rules when he walked into the Ghost King night market. These people were really good at causing trouble. This was an underground street, and above their heads was an extremely thick floor. Above the floor, there were also countless patterns that were flickering constantly. Obviously, this was an yuan inscription array. The underground street looked the same as the longevity street on the surface. However, there were more temporary stalls on the side of the road. If one wanted to get some good stuff, one would have to walk around and take a look. No one knew where these people would stay. Generally, people who came to this kind of place to sell things basically did not have stolen goods. As for the price, it was up to fate. Some of the shops were relatively strong. If you were in a hurry to get rid of the things in your hands, you could sell them to these recycling shops. This way, you could quickly cash in and there would be no worries. The only drawback was that the price would be very, very low. As long as one could bear it, there was nothing to say. After all, high returns also came with high risks. Since others were willing to bear the risk for you, they would naturally want to take some benefits from you. The people walking on the street were in a hurry. If they were not accompanying companions, they would basically keep a distance from strangers. In this black market, fighting was not allowed. Otherwise, the yuan inscription array above their heads was no joke. A bolt of lightning could strike them at any time and turn them into ashes. Furthermore, this entire street was managed by a special force. Otherwise, this street full of treasures would definitely be filled with bloodshed and chaos. No one would dare to trade in such a place. Naturally, there would be no benefits to speak of. When it was first established, there were often some people who wanted to forcibly leave with their things. However, the end result was obvious. The road to the underworld was not a place where one could come and go as one pleased. The fact that this Ghost King night market could exist for such a long time already proved the strength of the person behind it. Even a yuan monarch elite would not easily cause trouble in this place. Li Zongjio walked into a shop with 3 lanterns hanging on it. The shops here were also divided into different grades. The more lanterns there were, the more precious and higher the grade of the items inside. At the same time, it also showed that this shop had existed for a long time. What would you like to order, dear customer? Our shop has just brought in 20 new female slaves from the Western region. This is their introduction list. After purchasing, you will be provided with a certificate from the Ministry of Revenue. I guarantee that it will be clean. Take a look. Trafficking in human beings was, of course, illegal. However, in this Ghost King night market, it was a common thing. Many people would even come because of its reputation. This shop with 3 lanterns. Trading? You guys are really scumbags. Li Zongjio frowned when he heard this. Of course, he was wearing the shroud and his voice had changed. At the same time, Li Zongjio's expression could not be seen clearly. Even his appearance could not be seen clearly. However, his height could not be changed. The shop owner could not help but smile when he heard Li Zongjio's words. How many good people could come here to trade? It was just that Li Zongjio did not like this kind of trade. It was common for people to open their doors to do business. Therefore, the shop owner did not care. Since you are not interested in these foreign girls, what do you want? As long as you say it, I can get it for you. As for the price, I will give you a 10% discount since you are a new customer. In this kind of black market, face did not matter. No one knew who you were. Only money was real. Only when you made money could you talk about other things. Yuan stones. Li Zongjio said. Things like primordial stones should be relatively common in this black market. For example, some of the new weapons forged by the workshop would always be in this black market. As a result, it naturally attracted the attention of the primordial stones. As long as it was something that could make money, they would carry it out. Whether it was legal or not, it did not matter. In this underground world, there were no rules to speak of. Yuan stones, this thing, you can have as many as you want. What kind of yuan stones do you want? The shopkeeper's face suddenly showed a smile. I'm not bragging, but in this Ghost King night market, there are 108 shops, and only my primordial stones are of the best quality. The other shops are all just to make up the numbers. If you don't pay attention, you'll be cheated by them. Come to my shop, I guarantee that you'll be happy buying and using it without worry. High-grade primordial stones. If it's the best, then supreme-grade primordial stone. Li Zongjio said. When these words came out, the shopkeeper's face suddenly froze. From Li Zongjio's body, he did not see anything strange. This person in front of him, his tone was too arrogant. After coming to this black market, he actually dared to make such a direct and grand transaction. Upper-grade yuan stone, its value was very high. If you can't take it out, then don't waste my time. Li Zongjio said, turned around and prepared to leave. He did not even give the shopkeeper time to react. He only knew that he was about to lose a big customer. Such a big customer, how could he let him leave so easily? Wait, who said that I don't have it here? You wait. The shopkeeper turned around and walked into the storage room at the back. With a series of crackling sounds, he directly opened the extremely tightly sealed treasure chest. Soon after, he took out a box that was locked with an yuan pattern lock. Dear customer, this is the upper-grade yuan stone you want. After a series of operations, the box was opened. Immediately, the contents of the box were displayed in front of Li Zongjio. When he saw the crystal-clear stone in the box, Li Zongjio's eyes narrowed slightly. There was some satisfaction in his eyes. Just by looking at it, the quality of this yuan stone was close to perfect. Such a high-grade yuan stone was very rare. Basically, once it was dug out, it would quickly be secretly sent to other places. Therefore, it was very difficult to see such a high-quality yuan stone in the market. Only one. Li Zongjio was not some country bumpkin. Even if the quality was high, it was only a single upper-grade yuan stone. Could it be that high? Li Zongjio had seen a lot of high-grade primordial stones before. Therefore, he did not care at all. How many do you want? Since he dared to ask for such an exorbitant price, it was obvious that he was not an ordinary rich person. Maybe he was a super customer, so he must seize the opportunity. I want as many as you have. Li Zongjio directly placed a bottle of pills on the table. The bottle was full of fifth-grade pills, nearly 20 of them. In terms of value, a fifth-grade pill was worth between 10 million and 50 million purple yuan in the market. The value of a single upper-grade yuan stone was about 1 million purple yuan. However, this was the black market. The things they sold would be more expensive, and the things they sold would depreciate greatly. No matter where it was, a fifth-grade medicinal pill was an absolute hard currency. The shopkeeper could not wait to open the bottle in his hand. There were 20 fifth-grade pills inside. Seeing so many of them, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a big business. Chapter 628. He had been in this business for so long and had seen many things, but he had never seen someone who could take out 20 fifth-grade elixirs in one go and exchange them for high-grade primordial stones. In the outside world, one fifth-grade elixir could be exchanged for 2 or 3 high-grade primordial stones, but in this black market, It was at most 1-to-1. 25th grade elixirs, 1-to-1 exchange, I will give you 20 high-grade primordial stones. The shopkeeper knew in his heart that this was definitely a big deal, but on the surface, he still had to continue to remain calm. If he changed hands, the profit would be several times more. Just today's list was enough for them to eat for several years. Okay, Li Zongjio said indifferently. It seemed that in Li Zongjio's eyes, as long as he could get the high-grade primordial stones, he did not care about other things. You wait for me here, the shopkeeper said, and also put Li Zongjio's elixir bottle in his pocket. He turned around and walked to the counter behind him. This time, he also went deep into it, and seemed to have entered some kind of secret warehouse. Then he took out a big box, which contained 20 high-grade primordial stones. The transaction with Li Zongjio was separated by a counter. First, it was to protect each other, and second, it was to ensure each other's safety. Although it was called a black market except for the price, it was still very good. These things were clearly marked with prices. If you could not afford it, then you could just not buy it. In this aspect, there was naturally no problem. 20 high-grade primordial stones, all of them are here. The shopkeeper put the primordial stones on the table and let Li Zongjio have a look. Generally speaking, the shopkeeper of this store was quite honest. At least the high-grade primordial stones in front of him were some real goods. Some people were good at construction and liked to put some defective products, or even some depleted primordial stones in here to make up the number. When you took it back, you would find that the weight of the primordial stones was not enough to be called high-grade primordial stones, but from the appearance, it was very shiny. If you did not know the trade, or if you were a little careless, it was very likely that you would be directly fooled. Do you have any top-grade primordial stones? Li Zongjio directly put away the 20 high-grade primordial stones, and then put a porcelain bottle on the table. From the looks of it, it was obvious that he wanted to buy the entire store. Again? The shopkeeper was slightly surprised. Li Zongjio's tone, top-grade primordial stones, it was really not something that ordinary people could get their hands on. He looked at Li Zongjio again and again. Anyway, in the night market with the Ghost King, he was under the protection of the Ghost King. What else could happen? High risk, high reward. If he did not dare to take this risk, how could he dare to do business in the night market? Friend, I'm not bragging, but as long as the money is in place, I can even bring down the moon of Tianshan Mountain, the shopkeeper said proudly. Then he reached out and grabbed the bottle in his hand. When he opened it, he saw that there were 25th grade primordial pills, exactly the same amount as before. He was delighted. However, the expression on his face didn't seem to be one of relief. Friend, do you know that if you want to get a top-grade primordial stone, the price you have to pay is much higher than the price of a high-grade primordial stone? You should at least add a little more. The shopkeeper said. This kind of probing tone was also to take advantage of Li Zongjio. Anyway, this Li Zongjio looked like a person who was not short of money. Since this was the case, there was nothing to worry about. Let's just take advantage of Li Zongjio. He would not let go until he saw the last rabbit. Then I'll add this high-grade primordial stone. Li Zongjio smiled slightly, then took out a high-grade primordial stone from his arms and put it on the table. 5. The shopkeeper of the Shady Inn stretched out 5 fingers. Li Zongjio did not say anything and directly placed 5 high-grade primordial stones on the table. Straightforward. Wait for me here. After saying that, the shopkeeper took away the 5 high-grade primordial stones and went directly to the counter behind. Such a precious thing, of course, should be placed in the secret room. After Li Zongjio saw the shopkeeper go in, he turned around and closed the door, directly extinguishing the lanterns. The corner of his mouth slightly curved into a cold smile. His figure disappeared on the spot and appeared directly behind the counter. Why did Li Zongjio come to such a place to buy things? Wasn't it because these people were enough to cheat? Since Li Zongjio dared to slander him, he didn't say that he couldn't do the same to Li Zongjio. Therefore, if Li Zongjio were to make a move, he would naturally be happy in his heart. He had never heard of anyone who could take advantage of Li Zongjio. If you take away from Li Zongjio, even if it is only a hair, then Li Zongjio can take away a piece of meat and a bone from your hand. Supreme-grade primordial stones, actually want to take away my supreme-grade primordial stones. In a while, I will inform Lord Ghost King and directly kill this guy. This way, I will directly show filial respect to Lord Ghost King. Who knows, maybe my shop will be upgraded by a grade. At that time, the taxes will be even cheaper. The shopkeeper opened the door of the secret room and walked in. However, just as he walked in, he suddenly heard a little movement behind him. Just as he turned his head, he saw Li Zongjio walk in first. Bang! A punch landed on the shopkeeper's face, directly sending him tumbling down the passageway. A plop sound. Aya! Li Zongjio waved his hand and an invisible flame lit up the surrounding torches. This place was indeed worthy of being called a black shop's treasure trove. In addition to a mountain of purple yuan coins, there were also a large number of treasure chests scattered on the ground. One could see that the scattered items on the ground were extremely diverse. Li Zongjio's mental energy swept across, and the first thing he found was a storage ring. This ring was placed in the most conspicuous place. At the same time, the ring was enveloped by a layer of light. This layer of light seemed to be extremely dim, but when one approached it, a ray of light would flicker. This was the power of the yuan pattern array. Kid, every item in here corresponds to the yuan pattern array. If you don't find the correct method, you will not be able to open it. The shopkeeper, who had regained his senses, spat out a mouthful of blood and said. At the same time, he quietly took out a button from his chest. This button was specially used to call for help. Since these people opened shops in the Ghost King night market, they had to pay a high protection fee. Therefore, they also enjoyed some corresponding rights and protection. When there were people causing trouble, they would not be able to escape. The people from the Ghost King Palace would appear to help solve the problem. You dare to fight in the Ghost King night market? You're dead, kid, the shopkeeper said in a cold voice. What era is it now? There are still people who don't know the rules. Today, I will let you know what it means to regret it. Li Zongjio did not pay attention to the shopkeeper. Looking at the light screen in front of him, his mental energy immediately penetrated it. These light curtains were like some complicated yuan pattern locks. If one were to forcefully destroy these yuan pattern locks, it would definitely destroy everything under the protection of these yuan pattern locks. It was a very dangerous thing to do. This was called destroying jade and common stone. However, this was also the final guarantee. If someone broke it open with brute force, then wouldn't this thing become someone else's possession? Seeing that Li Zongjio seemed to be reaching out to grab the ring, the shopkeeper's heart was in his throat. This could be said to be the treasure of his shop. But now, it was trembling in Li Zongjio's hand. No, if it was destroyed in Li Zongjio's hands, then even if he killed Li Zongjio, there was no way to make up for the loss. However, what happened next made the shopkeeper's eyes pop out of their sockets. It was as if Li Zongjio had just passed through a basin of water. He effortlessly took out the ring. Chapter 629. When the ring entered his hand, he felt an indescribable sense of heaviness. Southern Kingdom Ring. Li Zongjio looked at the ring in his hand. There was a red bean-sized gemstone on the ring, sparkling with light. This red gemstone was resplendent, causing people who looked at it to lose their souls. Anyone would be attracted by this gemstone. What really amazed Li Zongjio was that the Southern Kingdom Ring was a storage ring that he had collected in his previous life. The storage ring was as big as a city. It was as if a temple was placed in the ring. Needless to say, it was a storage space. The most important function of the ring was that it could sense the presence of primordial stones. Within a certain range, it could be considered as a treasure hunting function. Therefore, Li Zongjio was very fond of the Southern Kingdom Ring. However, he wouldn't be able to use this skill in the later stages. He could get as many primordial stones as he wanted, piling them up like a mountain. Li Zongjio's wealth wasn't enough to describe it. At his realm, there was nothing he couldn't do except plucking the sky. Later on, Li Zongjio kept the Southern Kingdom Ring as a treasure, but he didn't expect to find it here. This was Li Zongjio's possession. How could he leave it here? Since he had found it, he might as well take it away. In fact, Li Zongjio had several very powerful equipment in his previous life. However, those were things that happened thousands of years later. Before that, Li Zongjio did not obtain any heaven-defying treasures. Therefore, the process of his growth was extremely painful. Actually, this ring is mine. Thank you for finding it for me. Li Zongjio did not hesitate to wear the Southern Kingdom ring on his finger. With a wave of his hand, the red gemstone on the ring was temporarily hidden. The light was no longer so dazzling. Seeing that his familiar friend had returned to his side, Li Zongjio felt as if he had risen from the ruins once again. However, this time, he did not carry hatred and regret. Instead, he carried his own desire and will. You are very bold. In this Ghost King night market, no one has ever dared to rob. It's not that I want to criticize you, but you have no way out. The shopkeeper touched his head. Just now, Li Zongjio's punch had caused him to roll down the stairs. Even now, it still hurt. Is that so? Hehe, since you are threatening me, don't blame me. Li Zongjio said. Immediately, he extended his hand and directly groped around the other parts of the treasury. Wherever Li Zongjio's hand passed by, there was a powerful force that directly pulled out the items under the Yuan rune formation light screen, including 2 supreme-grade primordial stones. In addition, there were also some spirit grasses and spirit medicines hidden in this treasury, as well as some precious ores. There weren't many items hidden in the treasury, but they were all things that sold well. If he kept hoarding things that he couldn't sell, wouldn't he lose the opportunity to make money in vain? Therefore, this unscrupulous store required a business mind. You will die a horrible death. He never thought that his anti-theft yuan pattern array would be useless in front of Li Zongjio. It was as if it existed in name only. In fact, it was very easy to crack this kind of low-level anti-theft yuan pattern array. The reason why these anti-theft yuan pattern locks had such an effect was that they had their own unique beating frequency. Under the encirclement of Li Zongjio's mental strength. Even if you were ever-changing, it would be easy to find you. Although the shopkeeper was good at doing business, it was indeed a little difficult for him to bear in this aspect. He was not yet at this level, so he could not imagine how it was done. Li Zongjio was not here to explain these things to him. He effortlessly plundered the underground treasury. Oh, that's right. You might be unlucky. I think the people protecting you will not be here so soon. Li Zongjio gently slapped the shopkeeper's face twice. Although these 2 slaps did not hurt, they directly penetrated the shopkeeper's heart. This casual and relaxed action directly shattered his heart. You can forget about escaping. The shopkeeper stretched out his hand, wanting to catch Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio's figure flashed and was already dozens of meters away. He appeared on the stairs and gently closed the door of the secret room. At the same time, Li Zongjio also took out a mid-grade primordial stone. His mental strength completed the engraving of the yuan pattern array almost instantaneously. With a pa sound, this yuan pattern array slammed into the door, embedding the middle-grade yuan stone into the door frame. Li Zongjio then turned and left. His figure disappeared from the shop. Less than 2 minutes after Li Zongjio left, a group of people wearing black cloaks and strange fanged masks appeared at the entrance of the shop with 3 lanterns. They exuded a terrifying murderous aura. This is the place. Seal it off. Don't let anyone escape. The leader of the group yelled. The mask on his head was in the shape of a bull's head. Naturally, there was no need for the king to appear for ordinary matters. Therefore, the true Ghost King of the underground world did not appear. Instead, he sent one of his subordinates to kill his way out and take care of these matters. Although he was only the right-hand man and not the Ghost King himself, the bull's head was not weak. However, Oxhead's strength wasn't simple either. He had the strength of a grade 2 yuan monarch. Just one of his subordinates possessed such strength. Needless to say, the strength of the Ghost King was even more terrifying. When the people wearing the bull's head mask barged into the shop, they did not discover anyone. However, this was also the unusual part. Search. Oxhead waved his big hand, and the brats under him directly turned the store upside down. It looked like it was ransacked by bandits, but as a group of professionals, they were very professional in this aspect. They didn't touch any of the things that were previously stolen. Finally, these people found the door to the underground warehouse that had been sealed. One of them wanted to open the copper ring on the door, but in an instant, he heard a loud bang. He turned around and saw that the little ghost was directly blown away in an instant. One of his arms was blown off, and his flesh was badly mangled. Most importantly, the fresh blood splattered on the face of the bull's head mask. "Motherfucker, you piece of trash." The bull's head directly stomped down on the man with the broken arm, causing his chest to cave in. Everyone knew that the bull's head was the one who loved cleanliness the most. Immediately, the man took off his bull's head mask and replaced it with a new one. "A mere yuan inscription array dares to act rashly in front of me? Break for me." The bull's head instantly punched out. Boom. The wooden door was instantly torn apart. At the same time, the force of the explosion was not directed towards the outside, but towards the inside. The entire tunnel below instantly collapsed. Rumble. As the dust filled the air, the bull's head directly pulled two people in front of him to prevent the dust from splashing on his body. Find the person. When the dust settled, the bull's head ordered the people to dig the person out. Who would have thought that the tunnel that you secretly dug would be so weak? Wasn't this just looking for trouble? This made the Oxhead General very unhappy. When the shopkeeper of the black shop was dug out, he was already on his last breath. However, other than the shopkeeper of the black shop, no one else was found. Chapter 630. Ghost King Palace. In the Ghost King night market, every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. All the underground transactions were protected by the law of darkness. Moreover, the Ghost King night market extended in all directions, with countless entrances and exits. Once the secret passageway was opened, it could even lead to any place in the sacred Flame Royal City. It could lead to any place that one could not even imagine. The Ghost King Palace was in charge of life and death in the Ghost King night market. It was the Ghost King Palace that maintained the rules. In the Ghost King Palace, there were countless experts who had established such an underground world. Places like the Ghost King night market would definitely exist. Even in the Imperial Court, there would often be people who would come to the Ghost King Palace to conduct some transactions. Some shady matters could only be handled by the people of the Ghost King Palace. There were countless of them. There was only one king in the Ghost King Palace, and that was the Ghost King. No one had seen the real face of the Ghost King. They only knew that the Ghost King wore a mask of the Night Rakshasa all year round. His voice was as deep as the roar of a lion, intimidating and terrifying. Once, there was a sect that claimed to uphold justice and maintain peace. All the experts of the sect, including several Yuan King Realm experts and more than 100 Yuan Ancestor Realm experts, were mobilized. However, the Ghost King personally took action and killed everyone in the sect. No one left alive. This underground world was formed directly and became a forbidden area. There were rules that belonged to this underground world. At the same time, these rules did not allow any provocation. In the Ghost King Palace, the seriously injured shopkeeper was directly brought to the main hall. Even though he was seriously injured, he could not delay the interrogation of the Ghost King Palace. This was because in the underground world, the rules had to be followed, and no one could break the rules. Although the shopkeeper had been a bandit and a bad guy before, when he was carried into the Ghost King Palace, he already knew that things were not good. The surrounding atmosphere was like being in a dark abyss, making it hard for people to breathe. He wanted to leave this place immediately. The people around him were all bare-chested and had incredibly ferocious expressions on their faces. They were glaring angrily at the people in front of them, and they were filled with dignity. And on the chair piled with human skulls, there was a person lying down. He wore a total of 8 rings on his hands, and each ring had a different color. Even though the shopkeeper was very knowledgeable, he had never seen these rings before. What were their origins? Speak, what's the situation? My Ghost King Palace will never tolerate anyone who breaks the rules. When the store was robbed by Li Zongjio, the shopkeeper immediately pressed the emergency button. Who would have thought that such a situation would occur? Li Zongjio was not caught. Instead, he was brought in for interrogation. Wasn't this a bit wrong? Thinking back, there had never been any cases of accidents in the Ghost King Palace. The shopkeeper immediately understood. If such a case happened to him, the credibility of the Ghost King Palace would be greatly damaged. Therefore, the Ghost King Palace would never allow such a thing to happen. Thinking of this, the shopkeeper's heart suddenly thumped. Ghost King? I accidentally triggered the mechanism. I sprained my ankle when I fell down. The shopkeeper stood up and said, bearing his serious injury. The underground world was really cruel. If he said that the Ghost King Palace had not caught anyone, then he would be slapping the Ghost King Palace in the face. Now that he had lost the treasure, if he lost his life as well, then it would be too much of a loss for him. Therefore, the shopkeeper directly denied it. Oh, if you are threatened, just tell me. My Ghost King Palace will never tolerate anyone who breaks the rules. The Ghost King said. But when these words came out, everyone's eyes were fixed on the shopkeeper, as if to say, you brat, say something. I really didn't. The Ghost King glanced at the ox-headed general. The ox-headed general also walked out. Your Excellency, when we went there, we didn't find any signs of an intruder. There was no fight at the scene, nor was there any abnormality. This guy was the only one who was locked in the underground warehouse. Could it be that this guy was trying to scam someone? This kind of behavior was similar to fraud. Previously, they had met several people who were not afraid of death. They had lost everything in the store, and then deliberately made it look like a robbery. They wanted to get compensation from the Ghost King Palace. After all, they had to pay a high protection fee. But in the end, the owner of the store was directly changed. After some reorganization, it was rented to someone who didn't have a store yet. It should be known that the price of a store in the underground world was even more expensive. The result was obvious. Basically, they lost their lives directly. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's disperse. The Ghost King was too lazy to pursue this matter, and casually waved his hand. Hearing this, the shopkeeper was very excited. With this sentence, it seemed that his life was saved. Otherwise, he estimated that he wouldn't live for long. Although the result of asking for help was very tragic, what could he do? The other party took the money and didn't do anything. Maybe they would even take his life to maintain their reputation. In this world, strength was everything. When the shopkeeper was sent away, the Ghost King waved his hand. Horseface brings some people to investigate. Since someone dared to mess with my night market, I'll deal with his whole family. The Ghost King said coldly. How could it be so simple to establish the order of the underground world? Naturally, he could see that something was wrong with a glance, but he didn't catch the person on the spot. Therefore, this matter could only be temporarily put aside. The shopkeeper's matter was easy to deal with, but the person who came to their night market arrogantly couldn't be let off so easily. Even if you escape to the ends of the earth, I will still capture you and bring you back. The Ghost King was also in the night market, and there were countless passageways. Most importantly, after Li Zongjio ransacked the place, he turned back and continued to stroll around the night market. He wanted to find some more hidden treasures. After all, he had so much money that he hadn't had time to use it yet. I haven't had time to sell these elixirs. Why don't I try selling some elixirs here? Li Zongjio thought to himself. The elixirs that he took out earlier were all taken back from the shopkeeper. There was nothing to say. They originally belonged to Li Zongjio, so it was impossible for the shopkeeper to take them away. However, after strolling around, Li Zongjio couldn't use some of the weapons, elemental arts, elemental skills, and the like. Even if he bought them, they would be useless. However, he found a remnant scroll on a small stall. How much are you selling this remnant scroll? Li Zongjio directly picked up the incomplete scroll of the array formation. He didn't beat around the bush and said directly. 3,000 low-grade primordial stones, non-negotiable. The shopkeeper said. In this kind of free stall, you could sell as you wished. However, if there were any safety issues, the Ghost King Palace would not be responsible. It was also a place to attract people. 3,000 low-grade primordial stones. According to the normal exchange rate, it was close to 30 high-grade primordial stones. This price was really not low. I'll give you 100 mid-grade primordial stones. If you don't sell, I'll rob you, Li Zongjio said. His words were considered polite. Then he directly threw the 100 mid-grade primordial stones on the stall. Anyway, they were all robbed from the shop just now. 100 mid-grade primordial stones were far more valuable than 1,000 low-grade primordial stones. It could be regarded as 1,500 low-grade primordial stones. However, the difference in price was still more than half. Although the stall owner was unhappy, when he saw Li Zongjio, he chose to swallow his anger. He didn't say anything, but silently put away the 100 mid-grade primordial stones. In fact, he found this remnant scroll by accident when he was training. Although he wasn't necessarily afraid of Li Zongjio, he didn't necessarily fear him. But in the black market, being able to get money smoothly was already a very rare thing. Chapter 631. Li Zongjio also left with the remnant scroll. Currently, he had 2 top-grade primeval stones, nearly 30 high-grade primeval stones, and 500 mid-grade primeval stones. He could be considered extremely wealthy. In the beginning, when he wanted to buy some primeval stones from Qi Shaohun, he had to use his connections. After walking around, Li Zongjio himself was also familiar with the place. He directly found an exit and walked out, but when he walked out, he found that the sky was already dark and he was in the suburbs. The surroundings were desolate and uninhabited, and gusts of cold wind blew through the forest. This is the northern outskirts of the city. I have to walk back. Li Zongjio's residence, White Deer Manor, was in the southwest direction of the city. However, the Sacred Flame Royal City was a huge city and was not as small as one would imagine. There were hundreds of thousands of people moving around every day. There were no less than 10 people at the city gate. However, just as Li Zongjio was about to leave for home, he sensed a familiar fluctuation from the Southern Nation ring on his hand. When he wore the Southern Nation ring in the past, there would often be such a fluctuation. Under normal circumstances, very few people knew why the Southern Nation ring would emit such a fluctuation when wearing it. However, Li Zongjio was very clear that there were extremely pure primordial stones nearby. They were at least supreme-grade primordial stones. Li Zongjio's eyes suddenly lit up. The reason why it could sense such fluctuations was because the source stone had just been mined and hadn't been polished yet. Therefore, the Southland ring could easily sense its aura. If it was protected by layers of protection, then it would be very difficult for the Southland ring to detect it even if it was close at hand. Therefore, when the Southern Nation ring was outdoors, it could easily find objects with strong primordial qi. Just in time. Recently, Li Zongjio was in need of yuan stones. Immediately, his figure flashed, leaving behind numerous afterimages in the forest, as his figure swiftly dashed forward. At this moment, an extremely fierce battle was breaking out in the forest. With a convoy of carriages as the center, the 4 black-clothed experts were moving, bringing with them bursts of bloody wind. The 8th elder of the Qi clan, Qi Feiyu. He held a black and white dual blade in his hand and was fighting a bloody battle. Alone, he was fiercely fighting against 2 experts of the enemy. His subordinates were also desperately resisting. He did not expect that this transportation mission would be discovered in the end. Moreover, the people who came with them were actually old rivals of many years. Qi Feiyu, it's not worth it to die here for a mere primordial stone. Give it to us, and we promise not to kill your people. Otherwise, your people will be killed by our disciples of the Yin sect. A protector of the Yin sect said in a cold voice. Of Qi Feiyu's Feiyu was Feiyu. Qi Feiyu wielded a pair of black and white blades, and behind him was a black and white dragon-tailed fish. Among the numerous yuan spirits, the existence of the black and white dragon-tail fish was extremely unique. It was also because of the strength of the black and white dragon-tail fish that the 2 protectors were so timid. They did not even dare to forcefully attack. If they were to fight to the death in the end, or even let Chi Feiyu drag the two of them with him and take them away. Then the outcome would be too miserable. Therefore, they naturally would not do such a losing business. Feeling the aura of the black and white dragontail fish, the two protectors only dared to use all their skills to delay Chi Feiyu. But looking at Chi Feiyu's appearance, he did not seem to be in a hurry. The insect sent you two trash. If I, Chi Feiyu, can't even deal with you two scum today, then I don't need to stay in this business in the future. Chi Feiyu said in a cold voice. His aura did not diminish. Although Chi Feiyu was fighting 1 against 2 and even felt as if he was about to fall into a disadvantageous position, his aura did not weaken at all. Immediately, his excited mockery caused the eyes of the two great protectors to flicker with cold light. Since that's the case, there's nothing more to say. Don't blame our Yin Yuan sect for being cruel today. Disciples of Yin Yuan sect, listen up. Kill all of these people from the Qi clan. Leave no one alive. Their storage rings will belong to you. The protector of the Yin sect, Wuji sect, said. The other protector was called Wuji Dao. The two of them were blood brothers. When the two of them joined forces, their fighting strength could at least be ranked in the top 3 among the protectors of the Yin sect. Men of the Qi family, kill this group of bastards in front of you. Chi Feiyu roared at once, bolstering his prestige. Although the other party came in a menacing manner, they had already sent out a message. As long as the experts of the family arrived in time, they would be able to kill these experts of the Yin Yuan sect and rescue them. After Chi Feiyu roared, a bone-chilling wind seemed to blow in the sky. Chi Feiyu's eyes darkened. The dragon-tail fish behind him also swam around Chi Feiyu. Obviously, it had sensed the presence of something and had come to protect Chi Feiyu. Ah, the Yinli protector is here. Chi Feiyu, don't blame us for not giving you a chance. It's not too late to leave now. The Yinli protector. When Chi Feiyu sensed the unusual smell in the air, he knew that the situation was not good. He knew that the other party would take action, but he did not expect that the other party would actually invite the Yinlao's protector out. In the Yin sect, the elders were in charge of internal affairs while the protectors were in charge of external affairs. Therefore, the ones in charge of external affairs were the protectors. Every protector was a Yuan monarch powerhouse. This showed how powerful the Yin Yuan sect was, as there were more than 10 protectors in the Yin Yuan sect. Moreover, every protector was an important asset of the Yin sect. Normally, there would be 2 protectors when they were dispatched. There had never been a situation where there were 3 protectors. Once there were more than 3 protectors, it meant that the operation was imperative. If the operation of the Yin sect was exposed, the sect itself would be threatened. Therefore, they had to end the battle quickly. The Yinli protector was charging over. He was the 3rd-ranked protector in the Yin sect. There was no need to talk about his strength. Even if the Limitless sect and the Limitless sect worked together, they could only be the Yinli protector. Chi Feiyu, you should be honored that this old man has personally come to take your dog life. The Yinli protector's voice came from a very distant place. However, in the next moment, a black shadow was already in front of Chi Feiyu. Chi Feiyu was stunned. The dragon-tail fish automatically turned into a ray of light and blocked in front of Chi Feiyu. Boom! Chi Feiyu's entire body was sent flying. With a loud bang, he fell to the ground from the sky. Fortunately, the dragon-tail fish protected its master in time, allowing Chi Feiyu to regain his balance. What a terrifying power! It was this move that sent Chi Feiyu flying. It was obvious that the person who had come was very powerful. Greetings, Yinli protector! The Limitless sect and the Limitless sect said in unison. A slender black-robed man appeared in front of them. His 2 sleeves were almost touching the ground. His face was glowing with silver light. Under the moonlight, his mouth was filled with silver teeth. He looked extremely sinister and terrifying. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.